of each other and take care of yourself. All right, gentlemen, let's start off talking about these conference championship games. We got 2 weeks to talk about the Super Bowl between the Chiefs and the Eagles. So we'll table discussions about that until a little bit later on in the show, of course, or a little bit later on in the week. Which game, Harsh, do you want to start with? You want to start with the NFC championship game or the AFC?
Let's go ahead and get the NFC out of the way because that was the first game of the,
Ain't much to that one?
Ain't much to that one. I mean, let's just keep it real, man.
No, I'm with it. Trust me, it was heartbreaking for me to watch, too, to watch my boy Shano, because I knew once Brock Purdy went out of that game that, they had no shot. They were undone. Finally. I mean, listen. They had been giving the middle finger to the football gods all season long. You're not supposed to make it to a conference championship game with a rookie quarterback drafted in the 7th round as the last pick in the draft, Mr. Irrelevant.
Yep.
Make it all the way to the conference championship game as the third-string quarterback on your roster. It's not supposed to happen.
It's not supposed to get
down like that. It has never, ever happened, all right? And finally, when something happens to him, I mean, who the hell is supposed to have a good fourth-string quarterback? Josh Johnson, who had been with how many teams? Is it 13 or 14?
It was 14.
Okay, 14. Make sure you get that right. 14 different teams. There's a reason for that, as my wife kept saying. She kept yelling at the screen. There's a reason he's been with 14 different teams. They didn't have a shot. I will say this, and I love my man Chano, but I'll start off being critical. When you're asking tight ends to block Hassan Reddick on multiple occasions in the first quarter, exactly.
Your quarterback deserved to get beat down.
That's what I'm saying. Come on, man. You was asking for something bad to happen to Brock Purdy. What are you doing,
It wasn't
Shano?
even close, Shano.
Shano, what are you doing? The guy has 17 sacks going into the game.
Yeah.
And you wanted who you had? First of all, you had the tight end blocking him.
Kittle.
No, Kittle was on the second one. Kittle was on the one where he ends up hitting Josh Johnson.
Where it knocked him out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where he knocked him
Or
out.
he tried to strip the ball.
Almost
That's
took
right.
the ball and
That's
ended
right.
up landing on his back.
That's
the
right.
first one was Tyler Kroft.
Yep.
He thought Tyler Kroft was ready to step it up.
They need Laura Kraft
Yeah,
to go out there. They need Laura Croft to go out there and get
Tyler Kroft, Laura Croft. I'm with you. I mean, Tyler Smith maybe.
Yeah, they need something.
That was a dang coaching mistake.
Yeah.
He paid, and usually mistake is a mistake. You take a sack, you live to fight another day. He did not, unfortunately.
Nope.
That dang coaching mistake, Harts, came back to haunt him, and he did it twice in the first. The second one was a combo of Jawan Jennings and Kittle trying to double team him on second and
Come
6.
on, Jawan was just straight out there, out there.
Jawan was like, what?
He was like, hold on.
Olay.
That was like, he split both of them.
like
I'm
a
like,
bullfighter.
how did you get between both of them?
Yeah, he did. He split him. He went right to the
And then
quarterback.
neither one of them touched him.
Neither one of them touched him. They didn't touch him.
Come on.
Yeah, to me, so that honestly, that's where the game was lost.
Yeah.
And won, I guess.
I guess you could say that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, and to your point, man, you think about how this season started. Jimmy G was not even part of the team. He was practicing on the backfields by himself, rehabbing. And then you have Trey Lance, who is your guy. You lose him. Jimmy gets active, does well. Then you lose Jimmy. And then you bring in Brock Purdy as your quarterback. And then you sign Josh Johnson. But you had been just going by, just getting by. Defense is playing well. We keep it all simple. And all of a sudden, to your point, everything just crumbled immediately. And I felt bad in watching that game. It was just like this defense, like any other team, if your offense isn't moving the ball and they continue to have to play defense, they're going to crack. It always happens. We saw it happen. They were playing their butts off on defense. They were trying to make plays. But the other part of it, how many interceptions did they drop? They had opportunities to intercept the ball and stop some of those drives of Jalen Hurts, and they couldn't do it. They kept dropping them, and it came back to haunt them because and most of them, you were in plus territory. You would have got the ball on a shorter field, and they just couldn't close it out. But, man, it felt so bad to watch that. And as soon as I saw him hit his arm, all I kept thinking was a bruise, right? I kept thinking it was a bruise on the forearm. He'll be able to come back. They're over there massaging him. I'm like, he has to play. He has to play.
Yeah.
And even when he went over to talk to Shano, Shano was just like, dude, you got nothing? Can you throw left-handed? I mean, I need something. I need some form of a threat
Nope.
Nothing was going to work for him.
Yeah, and then they put in Josh Johnson, and he was all right until he started making mistakes that obviously are expected of Josh Johnson. I mean, nothing against Josh Johnson, but he was never expected to play in that situation.
Correct.
And then he ends up leaving with a concussion in the third quarter after Ndamukong Suh hits him. And then his head hits the ground. They have to bring Brock Purdy back in, but everybody knows Brock Purdy can't even throw, so he's just handing off. I thought they were going to go straight up Wildcat at one time with just Debo and Christian McCaffrey. They did not. They were getting Kyle Juszczyk ready as their third-string quarterback at one point. Sorry, not third-string, their emergency quarterback, I should say, at one point. And, yeah, it was just a disaster. I mean, and then the Eagles, they didn't even have to play a great game, and they realized that once Brock Purdy went out, they just tried their best not to lose the game.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts had, 121 passing yards, a season low for him. 39 rushing yards. He was 15 of 25. The Eagles had 148 rushing yards overall, so they just wanted to control the game. They only had 269 total yards, less than 4 yards per play. The 49ers defense did everything they could. As you mentioned, they just started to break down late in the second quarter, and then basically after that, the game was pretty much over at the beginning of the third quarter.
Yeah,
it was over.
As soon as I saw Brock Purdy get hurt, and, of course, Josh Johnson comes in, but during that time, I'm over there watching Christian McCaffrey trying to get the communication, the remote in his helmet. Like he was trying to get the hearing in there because he was about to have to call all the plays. I don't even know if Josh Johnson knew all the plays.
You're right.
You know?
There's no way he did.
There's no way he was even thinking he was going to get into this game. Yeah. But Christian McCaffrey being what he was, I thought for a while he was going to go, all right, you're going to run Wildcat this half, and we're going to move Debo back there to do the same. Because I know that both of those guys can throw the football at some point. And the one play that they did try to do that, I don't know where Christian McCaffrey was looking to throw.
That's why he's the emergency, one of the emergency guys. I'm with you. I don't know what that. Yeah, that was. I know that used to be an NFL rule about emergency quarterbacks that they wouldn't count against your active roster that day, but you could have them available and ready. They just wouldn't count, and you could only use them if all of your quarterbacks, had been knocked out of the game.
Right.
I don't know if that's still a rule. But, yeah, the NFL might need to look into it.
For sure.
Considering the 49ers end up going down to Josh Johnson for that game. And, yeah, I was like, is it basically the Eagles, they haven't been the TCU of the NFL. Where TCU kept facing quarterbacks that got hurt.
They kept knocking them out.
It was Kansas State went through two quarterbacks, Adrian Martinez and Will Howard.
Will Howard,
Both of those guys ended up getting knocked out for some reason or another. Kansas quarterback ended up getting knocked out, Jalen Daniels. They ended up knocking out the Tech quarterback, Behrens, at one point, and then Dylan Gabriel.
He was out of there, too.
They had some of the best. They just had great luck when it came to opposing quarterbacks.
That's a great run right there.
Bad luck, exactly.
That's a great run.
Bad luck for their opponents, but good luck for them. The Eagles, I will say, they have had a friendly opposing quarterback schedule, and like I said, a lot of them is because they have a great pass rush, one of the best pass rushers in NFL history. So they get to the opposing quarterback. But, yeah, facing Brock Purdy and then facing Josh Johnson. Here are the quarterbacks that they face so far this year. And it doesn't say anything about how good they are because they are damn good. They deserve to be where they are. But Jared Goff, Kirk Cousins, Carson Wentz, Trevor Lawrence. That happened like a monsoon, I believe. There was Cooper Rush once. There was Davis Mills. Taylor Heineke, Matt Ryan. They did face Aaron Rodgers, but as we know, Aaron Rodgers.
He was not Aaron Rodgers.
Ryan Tannehill, Daniel Jones twice, but they also faced Davis Webb, Justin Fields, Dak Prescott.
And he was not Dak Prescott. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that's a good one. Andy Dalton and then Brock Purdy.
Yeah. It lined up perfectly for them.
It lined up.
It lined up
really
perfectly
well,
for them.
Man. Yeah. So that helps. It helps. And they've been relatively healthy, the 49ers. And I'm going to do some research on this. I will say this. One thing Shano needs to figure out is why the 49ers have been one of the most injured teams since he's been the head coach.
Yeah.
Is it not true?
That is very true.
Just top of the dome. Not even doing the actual analytical breakdown, the research. You can just think about there's very few teams that have had as many injuries
At key positions
than the 49ers. And everybody thought they would get healthy at the right time. But even then, going back to quarterback, and it's not, I'm not saying that there's anything that he can do about it, but you do need to try to figure out if there is.
Well, some of that goes down to strength and conditioning. You know what I'm saying? That might be something that you need to look at, because you either have soft tissue injuries that you start paying attention to. I mean, and then some of it is just bad luck, too.
It's bad luck, man.
Bad luck on some of this stuff. And I thought they were hitting their stride, and I don't know if Brock Purdy would have done anything in that game anyway, because of the way that defense was pinning their ears back and they were coming after him. Mm-hmm. I don't know how well they would have been able to hold up and see what happens, but they had no chance after that first quarter. They had that one touchdown. Christian McCaffrey made a great play, and people are like, this might work. No, it wasn't ever going to work. No. I don't think that game plan was designed for them to be able to counter what Philadelphia's defense was doing, because they were getting to the quarterback. And to be honest with you, up until right before last week's game, I completely forgot that Ndamukong Suh was on that team. He plays during the playoffs. Like, he really makes impacts during the playoffs. And that's what he did last night, too.
Bro, he's been on the last 3 Super Bowl teams. He played for the Bucks, the Rams, and now he's playing for the Eagles. He knows how to pick a team that's heading to the Super Bowl. I want to bet a Super Bowl,
find out wherever he is.
Off-season Super Bowl bets with the Ndamukong Suh.
He's like the Robert Horry of the NFL.
Yes. Right? Right? Isn't that amazing? That's got, you know what? I'm going to research that. I'm going to find out if that's ever happened in NFL history, that somebody, because he's won them all so far.
Yes.
He may win, and I think right now I'm leaning Eagles.
That's what a lot of people are looking at.
So he may win 3 straight on 3 different teams. There's no way that's ever happened.
Unless it was like Deion Sanders. But Deion only went to 2. He did it with 2 teams.
And he didn't win 3 straight?
Yeah, it's like Charles Haley, but Charles Haley didn't win 3 straight. And
with 3 different teams. That is freaky. I don't know what the hell's going on, but you're right. Everybody forgets about Ndamukong Suh when he makes a hell of a play like that. But obviously we'll talk more about this matchup, but for the 49ers, they only threw the ball 18 times, to Harge's point that they knew they were done. Yeah. And they had no game plan. They had to throw the entire game plan out. That is the fewest pass attempts in a conference title game loss in the Super Bowl era.
Man, hold up.
Yeah.
You start looking at that, too. And then you go back to the fact that this was the underestimate of this team. You know, people have been talking about Miles Sanders, and is he an elite back? Can he do this? Can he do that? They don't use him right, or they do. How are they going to move him around? Is he going to be one of those guys that you want to build your team around? He was very consistent last night, but they also had Gainwell. Gainwell was running the ball and catching the ball out of the backfield.
Yep.
I'm like, they're doing some things that they're making the most out of this offense with the weapons that they have. And, again, contracts are going to be up. We'll be talking about this a little bit later on after the Super Bowl, who's going to be back, who's not going to be back, who they're going to pay, who they're not going to pay. But this happens at every team. This is something that goes through. But the way that offense was just efficient enough, and the defense was putting them in the best position the entire game.
Yep. No, I totally agree with you. We'll talk about that with the Eagles. Obviously, we got 2 weeks to get into the Super Bowl preview, and we'll break down the Eagles and Jalen Hurts, and really how this reincarnation of the Eagles came to be, because it's really interesting. But for the 49ers, they have a first world problem where they got going to the offseason and have Trey Lance and Brock Purdy competing for the starting job, and both of them are on rookie contracts.
That is a beautiful thing.
And they bring back, most of their key starters. They have to retool some things, but and so they have a really good problem right now. Then at the Jimmy G issue, but Jimmy G won't be with them. There'll be a Trey Lance, Brock Purdy offseason quarterback battle.
So are we for sure?
Well, maybe I'm assuming there will be.
Well, he's looking at it now, saying,
I'm assuming there will be, but maybe not. Maybe they just trade Trey Lance. If that's the case, then they can get a good deal for him. But if they don't, I imagine they'll announce a quarterback competition.
For sure.
It's like Sark. I mean, you announce the competition between Hudson Card and between Quinn Ewers, but we all knew.
Exactly.
Okay, coach. And I think it'll be more like that. Yes,
Yeah.
There you go.
That's funny.
All right, let's talk about the Kansas City Chiefs and their victory over the Cincinnati Bengals. It was a hell of a win, 23-20. We know how the game ended, and people will continue to talk about it, so we'll start there and kind of work our way backwards. Basically, with the game on the line, with about 17 seconds left in that game, Patrick Mahomes scrambles for a first down on a key 3rd and 4 with the game tied 20-20 in regulation. But upon his going out of bounds, Joseph Ossai chasing him down actually ran him down but pushed him while he was out of bounds. Ended up being a 15-yard penalty for unsportsmanlike conduct. So on top of them gaining the first down, they got another 15 yards on top of that. That put them in field goal position, and they kicked the game-winning field goal 23-20 for Kansas City. So Joseph Ossai with a bad decision, and he had a hell of a game, actually. And
he did.
We know he's a hell of a player,
Yeah.
but a bad decision in a crucial moment that really hurt the team in that situation.
Well, not only hurt the team, it seemed to have hurt him mentally and emotionally after the game. I mean, you sit there and you know what it's all about and how you play the game, and you play till the whistle, but you also got to be aware of your surroundings and also know if a quarterback is running near the sideline, you probably want to let up. You probably want to let up.
Rule of thumb.
Yeah, just note it. Note it. But that game was everything that you wanted it to be. When you start looking at how they got to that point, the situations of the mistakes that were made and the adjustments that were being made by both of the teams. Look, both defenses impressed me yesterday.
Yeah.
Because we know how high-powered both of these offenses are. And for them to kind of offset each other and the way that they went about it, for Patrick Mahomes to throw for 326 yards passing on a bum leg, 43 passes, and for him to be able to maneuver in the pocket, that was impressive. But me and Patrick and I were talking about it earlier. You know, Joe Burrow throwing 2 interceptions and being sacked, that's what cost him the game. It wasn't just the Joseph Ossai play. It was turning the ball over at inopportune times. Joe Shiesty is my guy, but he didn't have his best game yesterday.
No, not at all. Usually Joe Burrow is known for his clutch gene. Joe Burrow is pretty erratic, too, actually. If you look at him, his totality as a quarterback. But when he zeroes in, is in clutch time, that's when he plays his best football. That was not the case. Clutch time and clutch moments. Clutch moments being in the red zone, situational football. He was not great. Only 2 of 5 for 10 yards and 0 touchdowns in the red zone. Zero touchdowns in the red zone for him. That's what lost him the game, and you guys talked about it, the turnovers. And he was a riverboat gambler last night, right? They kept throwing the deep ball, threw 10 of those deep balls. Hell, threw a deep ball on, was it 4th downs or 4th and 4, 4th and 5?
Throwing the alley-oop from deep.
and completed, by the way.
Yeah.
So give him a lot of credit for the testicular fortitude and the cojones to do it. But you win or die that way, and it was boom or bust for them. He was 6 of 10 on those deep balls for 2 touchdowns, 146 yards, passes 20 yards or more downfield, but 2 interceptions also.
Yeah.
So those were crucial interceptions. So I think, you guys are right. That's where I think it was lost on those turnovers, but also lost in the red zone. Joe Burrow couldn't come up clutch.
And
give it up for the Kansas City defense.
That's right. Oh, man. Jones, that dude is an unbelievable defensive player for Kansas City. He showed why he was he's up for defensive MVP this year.
Yeah.
He was bringing it the entire time, and his effort was disruptive. Every time he got they were feeling, Joe Burrow was feeling his pressure the entire time. The way that they were attacking him, the confusion that he had up front the entire time, dude was playing out of his mind yesterday. And that's what he needed to do. He said it. He said, I didn't play well last year in this game, so I wanted to make sure that I made up for it in this one. But can we talk about his post-game interview? What was he wearing? Did y'all get a chance to see that?
I did not.
That's it.
Oh, my goodness. He had a sweater on, but it had like 2 bears stuck to it, like outside of the shirt, not ironed on, not sewn on.
Might have been like for a charity or something. Probably.
Okay, but what was that?
No, I guarantee it was like for a charity or for some kid.
I hope so.
You know what I mean? I guarantee there's some story with that. Yeah, I guarantee.
Because I don't know if that was part of the fashion.
Yeah, I guess I haven't read it or seen anything about it. I guarantee that's what it is. But if not, then I'm sure it'll go viral or something. You're not the only one interested in that.
That's right.
But getting back to Chris Jones, I mean, don't forget. Chris Jones, the one that basically won the Super Bowl for Kansas City a couple of years ago. It wasn't Patrick Mahomes, even though everybody remembers Patrick Mahomes' big play on that. Was it 3rd and 12, something like that, for Kansas City? Big play downfield, him throwing that big catch by Tyreek Hill. Chris Jones had 2 pass deflections in the fourth quarter of that game. That basically won the game for them. I mean, it really did. They were that big. They were crucial plays in a game that was a one-score game down deep in the fourth quarter in clutch time, and he was clutch, and he did it again, just like you said, Harch, in this game. He had 3 tackles for loss total, 2 sacks, 5 quarterback hits. He had 6 pressures overall. And on a 3rd and 8 in the fourth quarter, shout out to Spagnuolo, who moved him to defensive end.
Yep.
He moved him from the interior to defensive end so that he would be matched up on was it Adeniji?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah, Adeniji. He basically got him matched up on him. He ends up getting a sack on Joe Burrow, and that was one of the crucial plays in the game. So you're right. I mean, he's one of the best 3 or 4 interior D linemen, and you might say one of the best 6 or 7 D lineman period, but just take away the interior in all of football when he's focused and when he's motivated, and he was.
Last night it was. I gotta make a difference in this game because there's no way they're gonna walk out of here as owning Burrow head. By the way, they didn't like that anymore.
Yeah.
So we looked it up. Joe Burrow walked into the game wearing a shirt with a teddy bear that said "Sorry in advance." So Christian Jones was wearing the Bears as a shot back at Joe Burrow.
That's what I'm telling you. I'm like, my goodness.
Just look that one up. That's the reason why he was wearing them, though. He was like, he came in where he was wearing a bear, so I had to wear 2 bears.
Okay. Nice. All right, there you
I'm
go.
like, how did he have time to figure that out if Joe Burrow was walking in with it? Did he? Hey, I need y'all to go get me 2 bears.
Man,
troll game.
Troll game is on point. But Joe Burrow, without 3 starting offensive linemen, that probably ended up being one of the biggest factors in the game. The 3 offensive linemen that he was down ended up leading to the 5 sacks that Kansas City had. And here's the 5 sack stat that will follow Joe Burrow around, and it has followed him around so far. He is 21-1 when he has sacked fewer than 5 times. He is 1-8 now as a starter when he is sacked 5 or more times.
So
it's that simple. So, by the way, you got to give Cincinnati a lot of credit because they revamped and basically renovated the entire offensive line in the offseason, overhauled the entire thing. So having 3 starters go down, not necessarily their fault. They've addressed the issue, but it still came back to haunt them.
That was about to be my point, Rob, because he had been getting away with it. You talked about how the 49ers were escaping death, so to speak, the entire year with the quarterback position. That was the exact same thing with Joe Burrow. He was able to adjust a lot with the changes in the offensive line, but then the time ran out. They ran up against a team that had a front 4 that could bring the heat the entire time, and he couldn't maneuver through it. To your point, he got sacked 5 times yesterday. He doesn't normally get sacked that. You just said it. 21-1 when he doesn't get sacked that many times, and last night was no different. It stayed true to form.
Yeah, no question about it. But the Chiefs ended up winning. They advanced. We'll talk more about that matchup, of course, with the Eagles and talk more about the championship games that we watched this past weekend. But we want to get to some Texas basketball discussion. They lost to Tennessee in the Big 12 SEC Challenge. We'll talk about that coming up next segment. Also preview their matchup coming up versus Baylor tonight for Big Monday. All of that and more right here on Ball Don't Lie on 104.9 The Horn. Welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. It is a Smooth Soul Monday edition of Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. You can always be a part of the show. Specs Text Line is the best way to do it, 512-337-3776. We're also going to get into some Texas basketball conversation here in this segment. One other thing before we get to Texas basketball, which, by the way, you'll be able to hear it right here on 104.9 The Horn. They'll have a 7:30 pregame, and then we'll get to the first tip at 8 right here on 104.9 The Horn. I was wrong. My old age is starting to haunt me. Ndamukong Suh didn't play in 3 straight. He did play with the Rams in 2017. In their Super Bowl, 2018, in their Super Bowl against the Patriots. So shout out to my man Patrick for correcting me on that one. But yeah, we'll play in 3 different teams. He'll be playing in his 3rd Super Bowl.
Yeah, no doubt.
With his 3rd different team. All right, let's get to Texas basketball because a disappointing loss for Texas over the weekend. Texas playing in the Big 12 SEC Challenge lost 82-71 to Tennessee. They were a number 4 team in the country. Texas also a top 10 team at the time, but there was I don't know, really no time in this game where Texas had a shot at taking control of the game. Tennessee controlled the game for most of the game, and I would say the second part of the first half. That's when Tennessee took control of the game, and they never really relinquished it. After they ended up with a 12-point halftime lead. And Texas actually outscored Tennessee in the second half.
Yeah.
So I'll give them props for that, but they never could overcome the deficit, which ended up being a 12-point deficit at halftime.
Well, the biggest thing for me was early in the game, like 11 seconds into the game, Marcus Carr picked up a foul, and it changes the way that you go about your day. Sometimes you can't get out of it. It was just one of those days for Marcus Carr. And if you would have told me that Marcus Carr only had 11 points and Sir'Jabari Rice had 21, I would think something was wrong, right? That's not the way that this team really flows. And offensively, if Marcus Carr is not in that rhythm at the very beginning of the game, it's tough for him. Because he's coming off the bench. He hardly ever comes out of the game if you really think about it. So for him to have to sit on the bench, then try to come in, then try to play with 2 fouls, it makes it very difficult. And the team is used to him being the guy. So everybody else is playing off of him. But I also think Timmy Allen didn't play a great game. He didn't look comfortable the entire time. And if he's not if we talked about at the very beginning of the year, if he's not scoring 15 to 17 points in a game and doing those little things, it's going to be a long night for the Texas Longhorns. To your point, though, Rod, we saw a different team in the second half. They were more aggressive. They were getting up and down the floor. They outscored them 43-42, but that 12-point deficit made it seem like they were out of the game from the very beginning.
Yeah, and I'll just say this I think this entire weekend for Big 12 and SEC you can take with a grain of salt. You do need to learn how to play with different refs, but Big 12, 8 out of 10 games were won by home teams. Big 12 refs were reffing the Big 12 games, and SEC refs were reffing the games at SEC. It was very evident that teams were not used to playing with different refs. We saw Alabama play a terrible game, flopping all over the court. That stuff doesn't get called in the Big 12. Oklahoma was able to upset Alabama. You just saw it across all of the games I watched that day. It was not bad refereeing. It was just SEC referees one way, Big 12 referees a different way.
Yeah.
So when Texas went in, Marcus Carr gets in foul trouble, Timmy Allen gets in foul, and they never quite rebound in that first half from being thrown off of. They don't know how to guard anymore because they're used to playing one way of physicality, and Tennessee knows how to do it. So they came in and were much more physically dominant because they knew how to play that style in the first half. I was happy Texas came back in the second and adjusted. But it was too late for a really good Tennessee team. But yeah, what I take out of this game,
number 4 in the country Tennessee team,
number 2 now, number 2 in the country right
now.
So yeah, I take away from it that this was it was good they made the halftime adjustments because you have to do that. I would have liked to seen them get a little bit closer and win that second half by probably 4 or 5. But at the end of the day, I'm taking that weekend as a wash for the Big 12 and SEC because there was too many weird outcomes of games. Now, if you saw, there's a reason why Kansas is Kansas because they know, when you get to the tournament, you're not playing with Big 12 refs either.
Yeah.
So you need to be prepared for it. So this is something you got to prepare for with these coaches. They should have been more prepared for that. It is what it is. I'm much more concerned about tonight. If you win tonight, then that Saturday game. I mean, and I put it this way: they didn't drop in the rankings.
Yeah,
they are still number 10. So it was something that the pollsters as well kind of looked at that game and went, yeah, they played a bad half, but they were also just didn't know what they were walking into.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, Tennessee they're a defensive juggernaut. It's just plain and simple. Joe Cook had a great article over Inside Texas throughout this little stat. I think it gives you a little perspective on how dominant Tennessee is defensively. So you take the Ken Palm adjusted defensive efficiency stat, which is points per 100 possessions allowed, adjusted for your opponents. But going into that game, Tennessee was allowing 82.9 points per 100 possessions. That was the best number in the country. No team has ever finished a season in the history of the Ken Palm stat lower than 84.
What?
They were at 82.9.
Huh.
That's a nice little nugget from my man Joe Cook. Said 20. Go look at the Kansas national title team. Most recently, they were at 91.7. Go look at 2021 national champion Baylor, 91.1. That team is nasty defensive. He's built, and they're built around toughness. And you know what I mean? That's kind of what Big Barnes is all about. And they were the tougher team.
Yeah.
They were a tougher team than Texas, and on the road that is a real tough task for Texas. But we talked about the start being big for them last week, and they couldn't afford to get to a slow start, and that was a bit of a slow start. They did bounce back, but yeah, you got to have guys like Marcus Carr and Timmy Allen step up and play big in those big moments in those big games, and they couldn't really match the star power of Tennessee. Ziegler was fantastic. I talked about how I was worried about that guy going into the game because he had been, he had just been trending, playing at a really high level since coming back from an injury. He had 22 points, 10 assists, and then Camwa, big man
doing his thing.
He had a career game, 27 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists. And basically
he was freaky.
Those two guys closed out the first half, and that was it. They basically closed, and that put the nail in the coffin almost.
He was freaky that entire game. His length was unbelievable, because a lot of times you could see big guys with the way that they move, and he was so smooth with it the entire time that every time he was near the basket, he was either going to dunk it or he was going to make a nice move around in the paint. And he played an NBA game on Saturday.
And this is a problem that Texas has, is we know they have a problem defending bigs. It's been an issue. They got really thrown off by the fouls early and then just played a really horrible game defending him. And he took full advantage and played an amazing game. And then Marcus Carr, you needed to at least equal out Ziegler, and he didn't.
Yeah.
So,
he couldn't. I mean, his rhythm was
No, and
off.
I get that, but that's what you needed to win this game. Yeah. That needed to be a thing that happened. It was not able to happen. But yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate, but I was very happy to see that they came out and fought in the second half, because that's a game you can really easily on the road just let go.
Yeah.
Especially when you kind of make a couple runs and they don't happen. That last 8 minutes of that game could have been a different story. But the fact that they were fighting to the very end, I think Rodney Terry's doing a good job of instilling in them that fight that you're going to need down the stretch, because the Big 12, as you continue to go, it is a fight every night. So you go, hey, man, it ain't about tonight. We get that, but we need to instill that we never quit. And so I like that coming out of it. And then you have to rebound tonight. You're going up against a team that is starting to get its footing in Baylor.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're just going to have to figure out a way to slow down some of their explosive guard play. And then a guy who hasn't done a ton this year but will probably give Texas problems is Flo Thamba. He's the type of guy who can come in and play a big game in the post, and you're going to have to be able to guard him as well tonight.
Well, it goes back to what you said, though. You start looking at Baylor, and they're starting to trend in the right direction. They're a champion. They lost a lot of guys, but they have some good players over there. And, of course, Scott Drew is one hell of a coach. I don't care what you think about Baylor Bears and whatever happens in Waco, Scott Drew can coach basketball.
Well, I mean, we see Keontae George is a 5-star recruit that is a freshman playing for them. And I think early in the season, he was a little bit too ball dominant, and they were trying to use him as the guy early in the season. And once they started to get back to team basketball and Flagler and Cryer started to get more involved in the game, that's where they've really hit their stride. of using everybody. And again, I'll say, Flo Thamba, I get it. He has not been a huge impact. He's been a good rebounder this year. He is someone that I'm worried about tonight just because that's where teams know to attack Texas.
It's so funny, too.
Yeah,
that
on the
you
boards.
saying his name. Flo Thamba makes me want to say Mo Bamba.
Tennessee, 40 points in the paint against Texas in that game. Texas only countered with 28 points in the paint. And they beat up Texas on the boards. They beat Texas on the boards 38-23, an advantage there. And second chance points, they had 15 second chance points as a result of beating Texas on the board. So that's a big concern, and it will be all year long. You got to scheme around that. That's just one of your roster issues. I mean, just based on how the roster is built, you don't have that much size. Got to coach around it. So Coach Terry and the Longhorns in action tonight for a big Monday versus the Baylor Bears. We'll talk more about that coming up a little bit later on in the show. But big game, as you said, Patrick, can't lose back-to-backs in this 4-game stretch because after you play Baylor, then you got a hell of a stretch on your hands. Got to go on the road. And then you got to play Kansas and K-State.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Back to back. Then they were saying maybe they just stay there. It's a Saturday game and a Monday game. Again, same way. These guys got to be warriors now. This is a tough stretch. We've been talking about it. We knew it was on the schedule. We knew what it was going to be about. Now we got to see if this team could rebound because going on the road to play those two Kansas games, that home environment's a little bit different than what we're used to seeing.
Tournament feel, no question about it. All right, we'll come back. We'll get into the flex on the other side right here on Ball Don't Lie on 104.9 The Horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. Let me tell you about my favorite tequila is Hot Cat Tequila. As a matter of fact, over the weekend, got a chance to enjoy the weekend, but also enjoy a little Hot Cat Tequila. The cat stands for cinnamon, agave, and tequila, and the recipe just as simple, just as brilliant and delicious. Just cinnamon, agave, and tequila. That's why it's so light and so smooth. Hot Cat Tequila is a tequila lover's dream, and if you're not a fan of tequila, Hot Cat Tequila will make you a fan of tequila. It'll turn any event into a party, and every party feels like a celebration. So celebrate and turn up with Hot Cat Tequila. And once you try Hot Cat, you can't go back to that old cinnamon whiskey or that cheap tequila you ordered rounds of when you were just trying to get the party started. Turn up your party and turn up your festivities. Turn up any event with Hot Cat Tequila. No football watch party is complete without Hot Cat Tequila. It's the perfect way to pregame for the big game, concerts, festivals, or just a night on the town with family and friends. Hot Cat Tequila is best served cold for a quick round of shots or to sip on the rocks. So visit cattequila.com. That's cattequila.com to find a store near you that sells Hot Cat Tequila or to find a bar near you that serves Hot Cat Tequila. Toast and turn up to a new year with Hot Cat Tequila. Welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. It is a Smooth Soul Monday edition of Ball Don't Lie on 104.9 The Horn. You can be a part of the show. Specs Text Line's the best way to do it, 512-337-3776. Time for the Flex segment. Go to FLXATX.com, FLXATX on all of your social media platforms. A lot of stuff on the website right now for you to check out. Also, a reminder, the power rankings are up there, the latest men's basketball power rankings for the teams here in Central Texas, and an update on the Tuesday night hoops schedule, considering the inclement weather that we're supposed to see in the area here in the next couple of days. So they updated the basketball schedule. Also, you can go check out that at FLXATX.com. And also, you have the men's basketball power rankings that are up there for you, too. So go check that out. FLXATX.com.
Also, I want to point this out that our man Anthony Williams is having a combine. Go to www.texasfootballshowcase.com. And this is for all the kids that don't have scholarships as of yet,
That's right,
that you're still looking for. It's for unsigned seniors. It's also for high school underclassmen, JUCO, and transfer portal players. There will be a lot of college coaches on hand, so make sure that you sign up right now and get a little bit more of that information so you can have an opportunity to be seen by college recruiters as well. So you need to make sure you do that, and that's also on our Flex site as well. Go to FLXATX.com, or you can go to TexasFootballShowcase.com as well. Sign up. There's a lot of people coming in from Houston. They need more Austin participants. Make sure you sign up now.
Yeah, he said that actually at the National Combine that I helped him out with in San Antonio, that for some reason Central Texas doesn't show up as much as some of the other big areas like Dallas and Houston,
right,
and even San Antonio, which is crazy to me considering it started with Anthony Williams here. He lives here in Central Texas,
right,
so he's always promoting this area. But go check it out, TexasFootballShowcase.com, and actually heard him on the Horn this past weekend.
Yep.
Anthony was on talking about the camp and the showcase and trying to spread the word. So it's February 5th, Sunday, February 5th. But like my man Hart said, go to TexasFootballShowcase.com, and you can find out more about that. And also, there is a kind of a pamphlet, if you will, that's up at FLXATX.com that will give you a lot of the details that you may want about some of your questions you may have about it. But also, it gives you the address, the web address, and also it gives you information on how you can find out contacts, information, and all that kind of stuff. So go to FLXATX.com. Also, speaking of the Flex, the show The Flex is also coming back. Our Wednesday night Flex. So apparently that's also coming back, and really excited about the Wednesday night Flex that is coming back. So that's going to be happening. That's going to be from 7 to 8. The Wednesday night Flex coming back too.
No doubt.
So a lot of things happening with the Flex. Go check out FLXATX.com or FLXATX on all of your social media platforms. We come back. We got to talk about Harge's Cowboys, which have overhauled the coaching staff, mostly on the offensive side of the ball. But now Kellen Moore is officially out. He and the Cowboys are parting ways. He has already gotten himself another job. He's already the OC with the LA Chargers. That didn't take long at all. And even the Houston Texans are making moves. They're zeroing in on a finalist for their head coaching vacancy. We'll discuss that as well coming up next right here on Ball Don't Lie on 104.9 The Horn. All right, welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. We'll get back to conference championship review. Chiefs beating the Cincinnati Bengals. Eagles with a pretty dominant win after knocking out the third and fourth string quarterback of the 49ers. They move on to the Super Bowl. We'll talk about that, of course, but we'll review the championship weekend coming up again in the 5 o'clock. But right now, we're going to stick to the NFL. We're going to go to the Dallas Cowboys, Harge, because I'll give my man Patrick some credit because he said this on Friday when we were talking about Kellen Moore, and we didn't really know what was going to happen. He said, they're going to dump it. They're going to dump it right during the championship game. Kudos, brother. That's exactly what they did.
Yeah,
I didn't think
he was going to wait until the Eagles were celebrating to drop it.
Oh, man. It was right smack dab in between. I'm like, what? Yeah. That's crazy. So they do part ways, Kelly Moore and the Dallas Cowboys. I'll read the official statement because both, I believe, the Cowboys put out an official statement, and then Mike McCarthy had a statement as well. Here is the statement put out by Mike McCarthy and I guess the Cowboys after continuing through our end-of-season review process and having additional discussion, Kellen and the Cowboys reached a mutual decision to part ways. There you go, mutual. He said, I want to thank Kellen for his deep commitment, hard work, and dedication that were a core part of his time with the Cowboys. The production of our offense and his mentorship of Dak were at the center of Kellen's impact, and we are grateful for his tenure and leadership. We wish Kellen and his wife, Julie, and their family the absolute best as they set out on the next chapter of their lives. Remember, that makes, I think, 8 now assistant coaches total that have been relieved of their duty with the Dallas Cowboys. And it has also been reported by the Dallas Morning News. I'll read the excerpt here. The club and Moore came to what is described as a mutual decision to part ways, and teams around the NFL searching for a coordinator or aware of Moore's statuses, obviously prior to him getting the job with the Chargers. But it also said here that head coach Mike McCarthy will assume play calling duties in the wake of Moore's departure, a person with knowledge of the shakeup said. Now, guys, you remember my conspiracy theory when I jumped out on the grassy knoll and I said, guys, I think this is Jerry setting Mike McCarthy up. Now, whether it's setting Mike McCarthy up or whether he just, wants Mike McCarthy to be more hands-on, I'm not sure exactly what the intention is. But I think for Jerry Jones, getting rid of Kellen Moore, or at least parting ways with Kellen Moore, I said he was going to make Mike McCarthy the play caller, and he wants him more hands-on with Dak. Therefore, if Dak ends up evolving and Dak ends up breaking through this kind of glass ceiling that he's hit lately, and if he ends up becoming a better quarterback than the one we've seen the last few years, and Dak goes close to being that elite status, that is inextricably tied to the Cowboys' success as a team. And inevitably, I believe if Dak ends up becoming closer to being an elite quarterback, the Cowboys will also break through the divisional round, get to the conference championship or the Super Bowl. So that's the only way, by the way, that I believe Mike McCarthy can keep his job or have job stability or security based on my random conspiracy theory. Otherwise, Dan Quinn or who knows, or Sean Payton, I don't know if Sean Payton's still out there, they become the prime candidate to replace one Mike McCarthy if Dak Prescott regresses or is stagnant or plateaus, and or if they don't get past the divisional round. And I think both of those two things are connected. I think we all agree.
So I don't disagree with any of that, but my conspiracy theory is, does Jerry have that kind of time? Jerry's 88 years old.
Yes.
Jerry can't sit there and look for a coach to fail so he can grab Sean Payton. My thought process was, if that was the case, you need to go get him now. You need to do whatever it takes to go out there and get him and make it happen, because I just look at this and I can't believe I'm about to say this, but we all thought about this. It was like when Mike McCarthy said, we don't know, we're going to have a conversation this weekend. Mm-hmm. We kind of knew the writing was on the wall there.
Very true.
But is Mike McCarthy, do we believe that Mike McCarthy is that dude? Or are they going to go out there and get somebody else that can come in? I know as of right now, they're saying that he is going to call the plays. I know he's had success. I know he's been a play caller, but he also had Aaron Rodgers. Mm-hmm. And Aaron Rodgers could single-handedly change a lot of things and make you look outstanding.
Very true.
And Aaron kind of got tired of him and thinking that he got lazy and wasn't doing the things that he needed to do. But the other part of this is, what does Dak Prescott need? What is a bigger need? Is it Mike McCarthy to call the plays, or is it he needs somebody else to come back in and settle him down, making him sharp? Because I went back and looked at some of the other people. You talked about Scott Linehan. I'm also looking at what John Kitna did for him as well when he was the quarterback's coach and being around there. Maybe that was the missing piece that he needed during that time. I also believe that there's a chance that Dak Prescott does take this opportunity to go forward, but is it truly going to be on Mike McCarthy to change it? Because Mike McCarthy didn't change the plays on the sideline, at least not to my knowledge, because the whole story was, oh, this is going through Kellen, this is going through Kellen. If I'm the head coach and I see bad tendencies, 7 curl routes in a row, 7, and we don't make adjustments, why are you not stepping in at that point as the head coach? I think that's why we got to kind of look at what Mike McCarthy was doing and saying, okay, are you just now going to take the reins because you think you're going to do better with Dak? You know what I'm saying? Like, y'all let him walk away, and now he's going to go with Justin Herbert. And I guarantee you, if they use Austin Eckler the way that he should be used, they're going to be potent over there in L.A.
Well, but getting back to the Cowboys, I understand what you're saying about Jerry Jones. There should be more urgency for Jerry Jones considering his age, but he doesn't have
he's not 88, he's 80.
Yeah, he doesn't have a reason to fire Mike McCarthy.
Right, they're 12-5.
Yeah, there's no justification. He's gotten better. Yep. The team has gotten better every year he's been there. You had 5 games without your starting quarterback this year, and they showed they can win without their starting quarterback. So you don't have a reason to fire him. You can fire him, but in the court of public opinion, you're just going to be mocked and ridiculed. Yeah, because there's no reason for you to fire Mike McCarthy. Somebody
had to go.
Yes, exactly, right? Because you can't – Dak's not going anywhere, so you got to change something. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. That's essentially what you would have been doing. So I don't disagree with the move, even though you guys know I'm a Kellen Moore fan.
Yep.
I think what Jerry Jones has observed, and I'm not saying this is right or wrong. I'm just saying what Jerry Jones has observed is the turnaround happened when Dan Quinn came on the staff. First season, Mike McCarthy making most of the decisions, all the decisions – Cowboys were an absolute dumpster fire. They were a disaster. Bring in Dan Quinn, and the culture changes drastically on one side of the ball, but even the team culture changes. Now, I'm not saying that this is all Dan Quinn or not, but I'm thinking Jerry Jones is seeing this and going, man, I think Dan Quinn's responsible for more of this success than a Mike McCarthy. You know what? Let's see. Let's see if Mike McCarthy or Dan Quinn's more responsible for the success. If Mike McCarthy can turn around my quarterback, Dak Prescott, turn him into an elite quarterback, and now run his offense and an offense that is compatible with Dak's skill set, then Mike McCarthy keeps his job. Because if he does that, inevitably that leads to them breaking through the divisional round, getting to a conference championship, and Dak Prescott becoming basically living up to that big-time contract. If he doesn't do that and they don't break through the divisional round and Dak Prescott plateaus, then you go, say, sorry, Mike, hey, I got a reason to fire you, man. This is the same thing over and over again. We can't have this. We got to get past this round. We believe we got to get somebody else in to do that. And then you can go with Dan Quinn or Sean Payton.
Yeah.
So I think that's ultimately what this is. This is a test. And it could be setting Mike McCarthy up for failure because you're basically telling him conference championship or a bust.
Well, and if you look at Dak's contract, you pretty much have 2 more years and then you can get out of it. So you are on expedited. We have to figure out, is Dak the guy or is it we need to change coaches or change quarterback? And you can't change quarterback yet, so you're going to get rid of Kellen Moore, bring in Mike McCarthy to do it. Mike McCarthy can't do it this year. You're probably stuck with Dak another year, but you can draft a guy, put him behind Dak, and bring in another coach. And if Dak doesn't do it then, cool. We gave you 3 coaches, Dak. You didn't get it done. It's time to move on.
That's exactly right.
But if it does work, then all right, it wasn't his fault in the first place. He was being put in a position to lose.
Yeah.
So I think it is in the sense of if he really wanted to be slower with it, then he could wait out the Dak contract and try another quarterback and try and bring someone else in. This is, hey, man, I can make one adjustment. I can't make the other one. So let me do this year. If it doesn't work, I've got 1 more year that I can go and try whatever. and either I can go out and promote Dan Quinn and try and bring in somebody else, and maybe I'll go over and try an Eric Bieniemy because Lord knows no one else is ever going to hire him, or I can go try somebody else who's the hot offensive coordinator, the hot next thing at offensive coordinator, and try it that way. But I think it is, you just need to try something different because Dak is plateauing. I think Kellen Moore keeps wanting to try and add stuff to the offense, and that's not really Dak's strength.
Yeah.
So you have to go in there and go, hey, man, we can't play Joe Burrow football where we're going to loft 50-50 balls up into double coverage because that's what you can do when you have Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow. We can't do that with Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. They're good, but they're not that.
Right.
So we have to try and get more space. If we can get people into space, we got to figure out what we're going to do at running back. I think it's a good move, and I'm excited to see if they try and bring in another good offensive mind to be offensive coordinator. Like that is where you take in a Joe Brady or someone like that.
Ding, ding, ding,
that
ding, ding.
He's not calling plays, but is someone that can work in a room with Mike McCarthy and kind of update some of those schemes and plans from what Mike McCarthy may have been wanting to run in the past. And then the other note with Aaron Rodgers, apparently Aaron Rodgers always hated Mike McCarthy because he didn't draft him on the 49ers.
Yeah.
So there was part of it where at the end of that relationship, he hated Mike McCarthy because he didn't draft him.
Yeah, no, that's well known that there's supposed to be animosity between them. He's once called Mike McCarthy, questioned his football IQ and things of that nature.
He did.
But they won a Super Bowl together. We all know that. And Aaron Rodgers, obviously built most of his Hall of Fame career with Mike McCarthy. So they were good for each other at least for a little time. All right, for a while until it got toxic. What I will say is that as a Kellen Moore fan, and I've told Cowboys fans this before. Your offense, when Kellen Moore is your offensive coordinator and you had a healthy Dak Prescott, you were 1st, 4th, and 6th in scoring offense. You were a really potent offense, and I get it, Cowboys fans. You wanted a better game planning, better adjustments in big games. I totally understand that. And you wanted more of a linear, basically trajectory of development. For Dak Prescott, because it looks like he's kind of erratic and all over the place. And yes, that is linked to Kellen Moore. But what I will say is that, listen, if they both, I told you before, they both can't be trash though with those numbers.
Right.
You got to pick. All right. You can't say, oh man, Kellen Moore is trash. I was like, oh, okay. So that must mean Dak Prescott's a really good player because they've been a top 5 offense. You're like, oh no, he's trash too. Well, they both can't be trash, so we got to choose which one's trash. If I ask you if Dak Prescott's trash, you go, man, he's trash. And I go, okay, I get that. He's trash. Kellen Moore must be really good. No, he's trash too. They both can be that, and we'll see. This is what I like about this test. I like this experiment, this grand experiment going on right now, because we're going to settle this question and settle this debate once and for all. Because if Kellen Moore goes to the Chargers with a really good young quarterback and Justin Herbert, who doesn't have some of the physical limitations and the ceiling of a Dak Prescott. All right, he doesn't have that. And if he can go there and then he can turn Justin Herbert into an elite quarterback or take his game to the next level, we might go, well, interesting. That's pretty interesting. And then if you see a Dak Prescott regression while also witnessing a Justin Herbert ascent to elite status, that might tell you something.
That makes him a hot name again to be our head coach.
But by the way, both can thrive. We had this discussion in the offseason about Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill. It's like, man, Tyreek Hill leaving Patrick Mahomes, that's a mistake. He's not going to have a quarterback that good. Man, his numbers are about to decline. He's going, he's not going to be as relevant. It's going to be a sad story. He's going to miss Patrick Mahomes. It's like, oh, man, Patrick Mahomes is going to really miss Tyreek Hill. That's his number one weapon. He's a freak. He's the fastest guy in the NFL. It's going to be a serious regression. Well, both the guys thrived away from each other. That is the hope. All right, me as a Kellen Moore fan and a quasi-Cowboys fan, that both Dak Prescott and Kellen Moore separately thrive. Remember, they have the most unique relationship between any offensive coordinator and quarterback in the NFL, being that they competed against one another on the same roster as QB2 and QB3, and then they also ended up being quarterback coach with quarterback because Kellen Moore was appointed to that job, and then most recently as the coordinator and then the quarterback. Nobody has a relationship like that. And by the way, I think it might have been time for them to separate from each other and go their separate ways and try to explore ways for them to grow without the attachment.
Yep.
Because I think maybe that become unhealthy, and I think the Cowboys are exploring maybe that wasn't healthy. Maybe the fact that they've grown too close and that we need someone now with Dak who can have more of structure of a coach-player relationship, and maybe that's how we take his game to the next level. Because this really intimate relationship between Kellen Moore and Dak Prescott hadn't worked out like we thought.
Right.
And not saying it's
Might have
anybody's
reached
fault.
the ceiling. Might have reached the ceiling, as you said.
People say it's a mutually agreed parting of ways. I don't disagree with that at all. I know people are mocking that because that doesn't happen in a relationship. That is very rare. It's like breakup sex, mutually parting of ways. There's no mutual breakups. There's no breakup sex. But in this situation, I don't necessarily think it's out of the realm that it could have been a mutual breakup.
Yeah, I strongly believe that. I think they both realized maybe Kellen was sitting there saying, we've done all we can do here. It's time for me to go somewhere else and make my mark elsewhere. And Mike McCarthy was probably thinking the same thing. It was like, hey, I've seen you guys. I watched all the film while I was retired, so I know what we I watched all those games, so I understand what this is about. So maybe we need to separate and see what we can do as a happy ex-couple.
Yeah,
so to speak.
and the reports were that basically either the Cowboys put out feelers for Kellen that said to the places with open coordinator positions, hey, we may be ending this. Does anybody have interest? And so that's why the deal with the Chargers was so quick, because I guess on Thursday, Friday, is when this conversation started with the Chargers.
Yep.
And then on Saturday they talked more. Then they announced that it was over. And then today we already get he's going to the Chargers.
Yeah.
But I think that they basically, because it was mutual, they went, hey, man, we want you to still work. We think you're really good. We just need to step apart. And we said, Rodney just texted in and goes, well, if he's checking out of every play, that's a coaching problem.
Yeah.
Yep.
If he's checking out of every play and he's not running what you call, that is a problem if it's game after game. So you have to separate the guy from your friend where you can have that hard conversation with somebody that, hey, man, cool. Look, if you want to run out the rest of your contract and go sign somewhere else, fine. But you're not going to do that on our team where we're the coaches and you tell us what we're play calling. Yeah. Ain't going to happen. You ain't Peyton Manning.
Yeah, hard to check out the head coach's calls.
Right.
Yes.
We need a timeout. Come here.
And remember, I told you guys Nate Newton was the one I heard who said, oh, no, Dak's checking out of a lot of calls. And I would love to know the percentage of those calls, but, if Nate Newton knows what he's talking about, I assume he watches a lot of Cowboys football, and if he says he's checking out of a lot of calls, I assume he's checking out a lot of calls, and not all of them are successful checks and audibles for Dak Prescott. So I agree with Patrick. I think you bring in, if it's going to be Mike McCarthy calling the plays, hey, man, I guarantee you Dak, he'll think twice before calling audibles and checking out the plays that Mike McCarthy calls, unless they've already discussed that previously.
Let me ask you this. Was his contract expiring as well? Was he one of the coaches whose contract was expiring?
No, I think he had 2 more years, right?
I think he had a year or 2 more.
Okay. Because that was the other part for me, because they changed a lot of the offensive staff. Like, pretty much everybody's gone. Yeah. Skip Pete is out of there as a run. Yeah, Nussmeier, we wish him well. I love the fact that he's always putting out, we wish him and the missus well, like putting the wife's name out there. It's like, I understand there's some family. We don't need all that. We don't just say, hey, we wish him well. I don't want to know the man's wife's name.
Yeah, because you hung out with the wives, and sometimes I believe, because the family of the Jones family runs the organization.
Correct.
And so they've hung out with the wives. So I don't think it's always Jerry, because it ain't Jerry writing the statement.
Right.
I think it's like other family members. It's Steven, or it's his wife or his daughter. And then they're like, no, put the wives on there. The wives on there.
Wow.
We've been hanging out with them too.
Yeah,
we like them more than these coaches anyway.
Yeah, no, I'm serious.
Go spend time with your family.
So I think that's kind of what it is. But you're right. It does seem weird. But the Cowboys, listen, Kellen Moore they love them some Kellen Moore. He's grown. He's grown. He's a homegrown product. What I say about the Cowboys? They're the most homegrown team in the NFL.
Because we like our guys.
Yeah, that is factually true. Nobody builds through the draft like the Cowboys. But even when you start talking about the coaching talent, they like to promote from within.
Yeah.
They have to grab their own guys and stuff like that. So I cannot wait to see who they bring in as an offensive coordinator. I really can't wait to see what the search is going to look like.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Rob, because in my Hard Knocks life, that is going to be part of the conversation. So I'm going to throw some names out there for you guys.
I like that.
That we can talk about, and let me see what your thoughts are on them. Obviously, we haven't all done the deep dive on these coaches, but there are a lot of names that are circulating out there. So I'm going to be interested to see how this plays out.
And whoever they are, I'm assuming they're not calling the plays. I think they're gonna. I think Jerry Jones is compelling his head coach to call the plays for his quarterback. And he wants Tim to run whatever Mike McCarthy's offense is, because I believe they were running Kellen Moore's offense. Because why not? That's what Dak has known.
It's funny how you use that word running, because there wasn't a lot of running in that offense.
Yeah. Well played there. Well played. Yeah. And then if the offense, like I said, if it's not a top 5 offense,
right,
that's a bit of a regression. That offense, I mean, that's very fair. But I will say that looking at Mike McCarthy's resume, it should be a top 10 offense. We just don't know what it's going to look like.
Yeah. It's a question of how are you putting up that offense? The problem I always had with Kellen Moore thing was that he would put up 40 points against a terrible team and put up 10 against a good team.
Bingo.
And you went, well, I get your top 5, but if it's weighted this way, it's a less effective top 5. So if you're top 10, but it's an even across the board top 10, in my view, that's a better acting offense, and it's a better achieving offense, especially once you get to playoff time.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to, like I said, he's got to get to a conference championship at least, and Dak has to improve and progress and not regress. And yeah, that offense has got to be a top 10 offense. So if he checks all those boxes, I think Jerry Jones will be pleased enough to keep him around. If not, I think he's on the hot seat. I think that's the purpose of this, is to put Mike McCarthy on the hot seat.
Yeah, I think it's to put
pressure. The whole purpose of it is.
I think it's putting pressure on Dak too. He is coming up to next season would be the season where they start to talk about trying to get an extension.
Yeah,
because he'll basically have one more guaranteed year on his deal. So that is the season, next offseason, where he starts to talk about, hey, I want another X amount of millions of dollars. But he's got to go out there and prove something in that. So there's a lot riding on him, where I think as much as you're putting pressure on Mike McCarthy to keep his job, you're putting pressure on Dak to go earn a contract extension if you want to get one. But if you come out and do the same exact thing as you've done, we're not going to give you one before your contract's up.
You know why that won't matter, though, Patrick? That's a very good point. You're right. Because the Cowboys don't draft quarterbacks. So unless they change their organizational habit of not drafting quarterbacks, I agree. That won't even matter, because they'll be handcuffed to Dak forever.
I'm going to say they got rid of Kellen Moore, and I didn't think they were going to do that.
That's progress.
So maybe we're making progress.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll make baby steps. Mike McCarthy's already got him to draft more quarterbacks than they've had before. So maybe
Dak Prescott will be the quarterback coach there in like 10 years somehow.
No doubt.
The Cowboys just weird that way. They just. But you're right though. You're right about that. The Cowboys should right now start thinking about what the plan is after Dak Prescott, and they should just honestly, they need to study. I hate to say it. Study the Eagles.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. Like we said, what I say.
Study the Eagles, man. The Eagles understand that these things happen in cycles. They're the NFL life cycles, and if you're thinking that they're longer than about 5 years, you're probably doing it wrong. They're about 4 or 5 year cycles. They're built around the quarterback position. You can keep your quarterback, but you got to change a lot within your the infrastructure of your organization if you're going to do that. Unless you got a Mahomes, an Allen, a Burrow. One of those elite guys playing at that level. If you're not like that, then you got to do the Philly blueprint, which is, you know what, every 4 or 5 years, man, we're just going to scrap this whole damn thing and start over. And they did it with the Nick Foles blueprint, and then they did it, obviously, most recently they're doing it with Jalen Hurts. And before that, they had Andy Reid and McNabb, and they thought, all right, we are Andy Reid, McNabb. We got an elite quarterback, and we got a elite coach, and we got a quarterback who may play at an elite level depending on the situation and circumstance. We can make this work to keep our window open. Other than that, 4 to 5 year windows for teams who don't have elite quarterbacks, and you got to start over. The 49ers are doing it. The 49ers are doing it right there. They're in the process of doing it right now. Like, nah, man, that Jimmy Garoppolo stuff, we're done with it. That was our 4 or 5 year window. We missed it. We got to start over and hit it again. And that's the way you got to do it.
It's funny that you bring that up, though, because I personally believe in everything that you just said because of the Jalen Hurts experiment. But that's who Dak is. Dak is Jalen Hurts. Dak was an option quarterback when he was with Mullen.
That's fair.
That's who they need to bring in. Take him back to those Mississippi State days where he was running the RPO offense to a T. He was a running quarterback that would make passes. He was that's when he was good. He took them to number 1 at Mississippi State. Why is it that you're trying to make him a drop back passer? That is not who he's never been that quarterback. And to your point, when you look at what Philly does with Jalen Hurts, although he's gotten better in the pocket, 90% of those plays are not him in the pocket. That's him getting outside of the pocket, making throws, making that read when the defensive end is coming down, seeing where that linebacker is and making sure he's getting the ball out of his hands in like 2.5 seconds. Why is it so hard for the Cowboys why was it so hard for Kellen? That was the part that was frustrating me is, look, a lot of people say I'm a great coach. This person's a great coach. I think a great coach is somebody that can adapt to what his players are good at. That's a great coach to me. If you put him in a position to where he's comfortable and dropping back to pass has never been Daxon. They put up great numbers. He can do that, but that's not who he is. Put him in the RPO. Make him make that decision where he can get outside of the pocket. He can pull. He can hand off. That's when they were good. That's when they were putting up huge numbers, but it was early in both he and Zeke's career, and then they changed. They tried to throw the ball. What I say, don't throw the ball more than 25 times in a game and run it more than you throw it. That's success for the Cowboys.
No, they were doing that when Cooper Rush was the quarterback.
Exactly.
And it was working out for him. But, the texter here says, what if Jerry drafts Bijan? If they draft Bijan, it would say that the Cowboys are going a different route because lately I think they've been going – I think they're building around the passing game like you just talked about. Maybe they're building around a run game and a defense. But what I will say is – because I know we'll get to your Hard Knock Life, which I want to talk about because it's a Kellen Moore kind of relevant discussion because who are they going to get to replace Kellen Moore? But I want to ask this question because CB threw this out there. I think it's a good question to ask. Did Kellen Moore upgrade at quarterback?
Oh, yeah. Right. I mean, if you're looking at it as a whole and for what he is wanting to do, absolutely.
Yeah.
He is that guy. Justin Herbert is a guy that can drop back and got a big arm and can make all the throws around the field. If that's what you wanted and then you feel more, you're going to feel better about that, absolutely. He probably got a better receiving core. Austin Eckler coming out of the backfield. He's your Tony Pollard. I mean, they have a lot of weapons, and I think – and Justin Herbert can run. He can run, move. Too. He can move. He unexpectedly, for some people, they're like, oh, wait, he's better than what I thought. And maybe that ceiling that is blocked for Dak, now he can bust through for the way he wants to run his offense because Justin Herbert is that traditional drop back, big arm, stretch the field type of quarterback that will make those big throws where he hits them a lot more than he misses them.
I agree with that. So, all right, what you got, Hard Knock Life?
We're going to talk a little bit about this coaching change and who are some of the names that are out there, and I want to get y'all's thoughts on each one of them.
All right, we'll come back, Hard Knock Live, talk about who the Cowboys are going to bring in to replace Kellen Moore. All of that and more right here on Ball Don't Lie 104.9 The Horn. What's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. Let me tell you, my friends over at Apple Leasing, we know that time is money, and my friends at Apple Leasing, they know this too, and they want to save you both. They're going to save you time, save you money, but also find great value for you. That's what Apple Leasing does really well, and right now they have the ability to put you in any make or model vehicle that you want. It's a brand new year, time for a brand new you, and maybe a brand new automobile too. The professionals over at Apple Leasing can help you get the price you want, the payment you want on the car that you want, and all it takes is one phone call or a simple click on Apple Leasing's website, and you'll get a quote on any make or model vehicle that you want. They can even give you an estimate on the value of your trade-in right over the phone. See, Apple Leasing has what they call their simple interest easy lease, and it makes everything simple because it gives them a lot more flexibility, which is going to give you more possibilities and options to help you find the vehicle that fits you best, but more importantly, the vehicle that fits your budget best. Inflation is through the roof. We all know it. We all feel it. It's never been more expensive to buy a new car, buy a used car, or buy anything for that matter, so leasing makes more sense than ever. So call Apple Leasing because you're only paying for the part of the car you're actually using. So give them a call, 512-346-9977, and let them see how much money they can save you. Apple Leasing gets all the same discounts, all the same incentives that the dealers do, except my friends at Apple Leasing, they pass those savings on to you, the customer. So give them a call, 512-346-9977, or visit appleleasing.com. That's appleleasing.com.
Welcome back to Smooth Soul Monday edition of Ball Don't Lie. It's your boy Hardball Harge. You can follow me on Twitter at Hardball Harge. You can follow my man Rob Babers at Rob Babers. You can follow my man behind the glass at It's Patrick Davis. We also love it when you hit us up on the Specs text line 512-337-3776. Now, we were talking about this during last week. What if? We were playing a lot of the what if game. Because we knew that there were going to be changes in the Dallas Cowboys staff. We were all excited. Well, at least all Cowboy fans were excited when they announced that Dan Quinn was staying. Everybody wanted to throw a party. I was real excited about throwing that party for keeping Dan Quinn, and I don't blame anyone for being excited about that. But the biggest question was, what is this relationship going to be between Dak Prescott and Kellen Moore? We had already talked about this, and we're going to continue to talk. Was the ceiling what it was as far as we've seen it? This is probably as far as it's going to go. This is what's left, because I don't know, even though they had a top 5 offense, top 10 offense the entire time that they were working together, I just felt like there were some things that were to be desired. Mm-hmm. There were some things that were missing, whether it was Dak not connecting on the plays or changing out of plays, or the fact that it didn't look like Kellen Moore adjusted when teams started making adjustments to him. You know, some believe that he did, some believe that he didn't, but at the end of the day, the team seemed to kind of get stale. Patrick brought up a great point. When the offense was playing up against a team that was really, really good defensively, it didn't look like Dallas was prepared and didn't seem to change the way they were going about their business. So now you're sitting here and we're trying to figure out, okay, who is going to be the next offensive coach? We obviously know it's not going to be an offensive play caller, but who is going to come in to make this decision for who's going to be with Dak Prescott, breaking down film, telling him what he sees, telling him what he doesn't see, and I'm just curious to that. So I was looking at a couple of names that kind of came across my radar, and one of them happens to be Joe Brady. Shocker, right? Joe Brady, he was part of one of the best college football seasons we could ever see. He had a lot of weapons. Joe Burrow at the quarterback position. You also saw Terrence Marshall. You had Justin Jefferson. You had Jamar Chase. You had Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I mean, they were pretty much a juggernaut, something that we hadn't seen in a very long time in college football. I think probably the last time you saw an offense like that, would you say Reggie Bush's team at USC? Where they were scoring a ton of points with Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart, Jared at wide receiver. The tight ends were dope, and you had 2 running backs that went on to play a lot in the NFL, as we're seeing right now with a lot of those LSU players. But you sit here and you start looking at what's next for the Cowboys. So I have Joe Brady. We talked about his college season. I think it's the proper mix of what he can bring out of Dak. Now, this all goes back to what we were talking about. This is a regular style offense. This isn't the RPO offense. So I'm just going to say, if you were going to bring another quarterback in, because I don't think Mike McCarthy, regardless if he says he watches film or not, he's not going to change his ways in the way he calls plays. He's more of the traditional drop back, make it rain type of coach, because he thinks you can stretch the field. So I'm looking at that. I'm also looking at a name that a lot of people probably don't remember, and that's Brian Johnson. He was the quarterback. He's the quarterback's coach right now for the Philadelphia Eagles. Obviously, you see what's happened with he and Jalen Hurts. You also saw even Gardner Minshew at the quarterback position this year. He looked good until he didn't. You know what I'm saying? He looked good. So, but Brian Johnson, he's the former quarterback. He played at Utah. He was the quarterback at Utah back in the day. He coached at Mississippi State. He's also coached at U of H. And he's coached at Florida. All of those, he was the quarterback's coach and OC. He was a QB coach and OC. So going again, you're obviously going to bring in a guy that is going to just work with Dak and be his quarterback coach and try to get him lined up. Another name that's been very popular these days, he used to be an OC in Tampa Bay in 2016 to 2018, and then in Cleveland in 2019. Scratch that for Cleveland. We already know what that is. But now he's in the college game, and that's Todd Monken.
Yeah.
That's another name that a lot of people have been looking at because he has been in the NFL before.
Yep.
He's done some amazing things, and he believed that he's going to be able to go back to that. Another name that's been popping up, Brian Schottenheimer. Remember him when he was at I want to say Seattle.
He was at, for a long time.
He was in Seattle with Russ. He was trying to let him cook, and he also knows Dan Quinn. I mean, they can probably work well together. So I'm curious of those 4 names, if you had to choose one of those, who would be out of those names? Who would you look at?
Right now?
Right now.
Oh, man, that's good. Right now, I'd probably look at someone like Todd Monken probably Todd Monken.
Yeah, look what he did with Stetson Bennett.
Right now, of that group?
Of that group, yeah.
Todd Monken, probably.
Yeah.
Brian, I got to look at Brian Johnson's resume, actually, a little bit more. But I'd like some of those concepts the Eagles are running.
I do, too.
Yeah, so
I said, it goes back to who Dak is.
Yeah, you can bring conceptually some of that, which I'd like to.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then another name just that was thrown out there that somebody sent me, and I was like, no. Ben McAdoo, not a fan of him.
I'm not a fan.
Not a fan of him at all. I really don't like his mustache, and that's what really bothers me. So he's out of there. Another name that's popped up is quarterback coach Tom Clements. He was with Mike McCarthy before in Green Bay, which I don't necessarily want any of those people to come in there. You know what I'm saying? I think because the game is changing. The game is changing, and you brought it up perfectly just a second ago when you were talking about the Eagles' offense and how they're being able to be effective. And I know we can all say, well, they're just hot right now, but it makes sense.
It does make sense.
It makes sense for what you have at the quarterback position. If you have a guy that is a big 6'4" guy dropping back in the pocket that has a big, strong arm that's very accurate, then I would say, okay, go get a guy like that. That's not who Dak is.
Nope.
What have I always said? I said play action, and I also said I wish he would have ran more this year.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a major part of his game that he stopped using, and maybe he's frightful. He broke his leg. I mean, that could be part of it too, and I don't blame him for that. But that was the whole thing that I was really worried about was why isn't he running? And then one last name, Byron Leftwich.
Oh, I'm not excited about that.
Right.
That doesn't excite me.
I'm with you on the Monken thing. I think he would be number 1A, but I think Joe Brady would be 1B because I think Joe Brady's concepts, to your point, is something that I think both sides can learn from. I think Mike McCarthy can learn a little bit from that, and I also think that Dak Prescott can learn from that.
I don't disagree. What I will say is that I like Joe Brady. I actually did more research on Joe Brady, and I did a lot of OCs from when he played Texas or when Texas played him when he was the OC with LSU. A lot of his concepts, though, have shown to be not ineffective, but less effective when he doesn't have the big arm quarterback of a Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
So I want somebody that's why I like Todd Monken stuff with Stetson Bennett.
Yeah. Yep.
You know what I mean? So conceptually, Joe Burrow was great. Joe Brady was great, but he was great with 2 first-round wide receivers and one's in the MVP race right now, along with that same quarterback. So I need conceptually things that work when the talent level is, less so than when it's more. Right? I need somebody that's going to do more with less with their offensive system, and not less with more.
And the Joe Brady, for me, the main thing would be that Josh Allen seemed to regress a bit this year, at least in turnovers and discipline. And so I don't know. Part of me really wants to get at least a somewhat older mind in there to try and work with Dak. And at least, even if you're not going to get that guy at OC, you have to get that guy at QB coach. He just needs to have somebody that he can have a relationship with that is not as peer-to-peer and more is coach to player.
Yep.
Just because I think that, we've seen that even if Mike McCarthy takes over the play calling, that they didn't have that relationship in the past. And you just wanted him to have somebody that he can go to and confide in.
Right.
But he does not think, hey, man, I can walk over this guy.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm looking at this as something not necessarily the relationship part of it, to your point, Patrick, but more of the X's and O's, because you have to get to the bottom and the crux of why this has happened to Dak.
Agreed.
Because this is not who he's been. As far as the interceptions and what happened. We can go back to the overthinking, not reading. People keep saying he can't read defenses. I'm like, dude has played really good football for a long time. And when he was out, besides this year, you saw what happened the previous year when he was out for the entire time. Cowboys were awful. So do we say, to your point of what you've asked before, Dallas and that high-powered offense, was it more Kellen or was it more Dak? Well, it was when Dak was out, they weren't very good.
No.
Remember, they ran through a bunch of quarterbacks. Andy Dalton couldn't even get this team going. And the offensive coordinator was the same at that time. So I'm just curious to, who's going to be the next person that could come in and just settle him down?
Yeah. I mean, that's Darrell Bevell is a guy that I like a lot for that. I think that he
wasn't he the guy? He was in Seattle as well, right?
He was in Seattle.
Yeah.
He was in Green Bay with Mike McCarthy. He's been around enough. Or actually, I think he was right before Mike McCarthy in Green Bay. But he's been around enough. He's currently the quarterbacks coach and passing game coordinator for Miami. So he's working with a good mind in Miami as well now. But you can give him up. You can talk to him about offensive coordinator if you're going to give him the bump up. But he's been an offensive coordinator plenty of times in the past.
Right.
But that's somebody that I think is okay, he's someone who's been around a little bit longer, has worked with other great coordinators. He did that Seattle offense with Russell Wilson.
Yeah, they were
It was
really
a run game-based offense.
Absolutely.
So there's stuff in that where that kind of thing is really not a sexy hire, but it could be something
I don't need
to be
sexy anymore.
Yeah, it could be
dubs.
something for if we're doing this experiment for a year of Mike McCarthy, you go with that, and then he also does have history with Dan Quinn being in Seattle, so he may be somebody that would stick around if Dan Quinn moved up and just all that could be a thing.
I like it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see which way they go. I'm with you. If they don't go with a younger offensive coordinator with more progressive concepts, then, with the quarterback coach, maybe they'll go with a younger quarterback coach there and then go with a veteran offensive coordinator. It's going to be really interesting to see how they lay down the dynamics of this new relationship with Dak Prescott.
Regime.
Yeah, and Dak Prescott, I want to know how much input he's going to have. Will he have any input at all?
Yeah, he's going to have to make some adjustments. We see that.
Or just input on who the hire's going to be.
I think he will.
I mean, sometimes, they decide not to ask the players at all. And sometimes we've seen lately in the NBA-ification of the NFL, the guys, quarterbacks have a ton of input on who the next coordinator is going to be. Sometimes they pick the next coordinator because of the quarterback.
Yeah, that's true, too.
Not sure if the Cowboys are going to do that or not. All right, we come back. We'll get into a little off the record on the other side. Right here on Ball Don't Lie on 104 Now the Horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. Let's talk about my friends over at Twin Peaks. They've done something wonderful. They've revamped the happy hour, made it better than ever. Now it's the best happy hour in the city. As a matter of fact, you can go enjoy it right now. Happening till 7 o'clock from 2 to 7, Monday through Friday. You can score great deals like $1 off all wine, liquor, cheap shots, and freezing cold 29-degree draft brews. For me, it's always about Bud Light, but for you, it can be whatever beer you like to enjoy. And if you're feeling a little snacky, they got $2, $4, and $6 appetizers. And if you're a night owl like me, you'll love those late night specials at Twin Peaks. They have a great menu. It's a scratch menu. Every delicious dish on the menu is made from scratch. So if you're thinking about a new favorite spot for lunch, dinner, or those late night eats, don't forget about Twin Peaks. So make sure you check out your local Twin Peaks. Go to twinpeaksrestaurant.com to find out the specials happening at your local Twin Peaks, the Stastny location, the San Marcos location, or the Round Rock location. That's Twin Peaks, eats, drinks, and scenic views. All right, welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. Let's discuss what some people are describing as essentially they're saying the Empire State Building. Like and whoever runs the Empire State Building, they're basically accusing them of being disloyal to their New York sports teams. So the Empire State Building, gentlemen, was lit green Sunday night in celebration and to honor the Philadelphia Eagles beating the 49ers and advancing to the Super Bowl. Yeah. This is a real thing. And it was lit green. And then later, after and by the way, they were lit up, no pun intended, on social media for this by a lot of New York sports fans, calling them disloyal and saying, like, what the F is this? A lot of the athletes who play for New York sports franchises also sounded off on Twitter. One New Yorker said, "New Yorker here, what the F are you doing, Empire State Building? Is this a joke? I need the Empire State Building to not be supporting the Eagles. This is insane." Another user said, "I can't believe the Empire State Building would betray the Giants like this." I don't even give a damn. Nobody thought about the Jets and them being green. They don't even give a damn.
Exactly.
That's why they had that. They're like, we don't try these green lights. Jets ain't won nothing. You have no reason to use these green lights.
Yeah, everybody used to assume. So they were right. It was for the Eagles, but nobody even brought up the Jets. Like, hey, the Jets are green. Nobody cares. But yeah, people were very upset by this. And later that night, they also turned it red to celebrate the Chiefs. And most people believe that this was done to try to, CYA to kind of cover their behind because they had somebody either through a prank or some Eagles fan that had infiltrated the Empire State staff had decided to show some love to the Eagles in New York City by changing the lights or having the lights glow green in celebration of the Eagles making it to the Super Bowl. What do you guys think? This is a violation of the G code or not?
I'm more of why are you doing it in the first place?
That's a great point. We don't know.
They
really
what
don't
was
know.
the purpose for you of all people to say, you know what? I'm going to light it up tonight. We're watching football. Why not light it up for something else? And why do you have to have it lit? There was no reason.
It's lit.
It's lit for no reason. I'm really curious to what's that. I feel like being a good Samaritan today, so I'm going to give some love to everybody that's playing, and we're not. Why?
That's not even the New Yorker attitude.
Because that's why all these people want to fight them. That's the New Yorker attitude. They want to fight.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know in Seinfeld when they're doing the marathon and Jerry's girlfriend yells out the window, she goes, "You're all winners."
Yes.
That's the World Trade Center.
Everybody
right
gets
there.
a trophy. I like that.
Yeah, I like that.
That is true. I don't know why that's a great point, Art. I don't know. We got to do research and find out if they've done this before.
Yeah.
But I don't. I mean, we haven't seen these stories of them doing this before. So apparently, New Yorkers, they don't remember it. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been going crazy via social media. I'm going to say a violation of G code because there's, as you pointed out, Harsh, no real reason for them to be just giving random shout outs. It's the Empire State Building.
And it
shouldn't be just giving random shout-outs to anybody. It should be like a very special occasion that unites all New Yorkers or unites us all. You know what? They won the Super Bowl? Maybe.
No. No. Not at all.
Never.
No.
Now, let me ask you this. So we're getting on them. Can we get on Kevin Hart, too? So Kevin Hart, this is when the Philly won the Super Bowl a few years back. That Kevin Hart, known big Giants fan, but from Philly, but he is a huge Giants fan, fights and tries to get his way. He gets himself on the field, and then is trying to get onto the stage when the security guard puts his hand in his chest.
I remember this, actually.
And everyone's like, "Oh yeah, well he's from Philly." Like, no man, that dude's a Giants fan.
Dude's a Giants fan.
Are the Giants just the most cheated upon franchise now?
Yeah, that's like me going to the Chargers.
Yeah, when one of your own landmarks are trying to troll you.
Yes.
You're kind of that is bad. So I'm with you. That is crazy. They are, because they're such hated rivals of one another. I think Hard just right. Yeah, you can't do it.
You can't.
You can't ever show love to Philly like that.
Not at all.
You guys don't. The cities don't really like one another, and especially the teams don't like one another.
No, and you can't do. If it was Washington or the Cowboys, you couldn't do it either.
Exactly.
Right.
I mean, it don't make sense for the Chiefs.
Oh, they
the Chiefs
would've
are
really
not even
lost their
manager. It's
mind.
like, well, now this is silly.
That is silly. Yeah, you're not even the same. Yeah, I agree. It's silly. Period. I don't know why they did it.
Exactly.
I think honestly we'll find out that a Philly fan, or somebody who works within a department, it was their idea, and we can trace it back to a Philly fan.
I
somehow.
hope it's just some. I hope it's just some nice old lady who just is like, I think it'll be nice to say hi, and New York's a melting pot, and we'll welcome everybody here. And she just walks into work today, and they're like, Edith, you are fired. Terrible, friendly ideas.
Yeah, no, New Yorkers aren't friendly. They don't want ideas like this. Reminds me of the Seinfeld episode, speaking of Seinfeld, Patrick, when Lloyd Braun suggested to Elaine that everybody wear name tags.
Yes.
Oh, no, Elaine suggested to him that everybody wear name tags, and then he suggested to the mayor, and then he got fired because
cost of the election.
Because of the election. Because he suggested that everybody wear name tags. Yeah, New Yorkers do not like very friendly ideas like that. They don't want to share, and they don't want to be friendly. They're New Yorkers, damn it.
Yeah.
All right, we'll come back. We'll get into more conference championship review on the other side. I'll talk about the Eagles and the Chiefs advancing to the Super Bowl. All of that and more right here on Ball Don't Lie on 104.9 The Horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. Austin is a magnificent city. We all know it, and it's why we all love it, because it is a great city. Thanks in no small part to the skilled craftsmanship of Ironworkers Local 482. They've been helping shape Greater Austin since 1935, and as the city continues to grow and thrive, so does Ironworkers Local Union 482. You see the labors of their love all over this great city in iconic landmarks like DKR Stadium and the Pennybacker Bridge. The Ironworkers Local 482 don't just go to the office, they build it. So if you're looking for an exciting new career, you can become a member of Ironworkers Local 482 and accept the challenge of becoming the best version of yourself while helping shape Austin's economic development. I had a friend of mine actually that was asking me about if I know any place that that was hiring here in Austin. I actually told him about Ironworkers Local Union 482 because they're hiring about 3,000 people. That's right, 3,000 people right now for a huge project. So you can become a member of Ironworkers Local 482 and take pride in the type of teamwork and craftsmanship that helps shape the future of this great city. So maximize your potential and be your best self today by applying at ironworkers482.org. That's ironworkers482.org. All right, welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. It is a Smooth Soul Monday edition of Ball Don't Lie on 104.9 The Horn. We can always get back to discussions about the Texas basketball team. We will, as a matter of fact, in 6 o'clock, we'll talk about Texas playing Baylor. Also talk about their loss versus Tennessee in the Big 12 SEC Challenge. But here, we'll get into conference championship review. Talk about the Chiefs beating the Bengals. Also, we'll get into the Eagles just putting it an Old Testament-style butt whipping on the 49ers. There's a reason for that because the 49ers lost their third and fourth string quarterback during the game. We'll get to that and break it down. Please hit us up via Twitter if you got anything to say, questions, comments, or responses. I'm at Rod Babers in the Twitterverse. My man Harge at Hardball Harge in the Twitterverse. And my man Patrick is out and about. He is heading to the Mood, getting ready for a Texas basketball game. Big Monday, by the way, versus the Baylor Bears. So my man Corey's back there twisting and tweaking the dials at, hope I get this Twitter handle right. Corey Guidry 11 or something?
That's it.
There it is. That is it.
Well done.
With a K. With a K.
With a K.
Cole Beasley, Julian Edelman,
There you go.
That's my style.
Boom. I like that. There you go.
I do.
All right, Corey, we appreciate you back there stepping in for my man Patrick. All right, let's get to the breakdown here. We'll start with the AFC side. We started with the NFC in the last breakdown of the conference championship weekend. Let's start with the AFC side of things and talk about Patrick Mahomes once again getting the win and once again heading to a Super Bowl. It seems like it might be the best start for any quarterback's career in the history of the NFL at this point. I can't think of anything that could be better.
No.
I mean, 5 years as a starter, and he's going to, 5 NFC title games?
AFC, yeah.
AFC title games, 3 Super Bowls, 1 Super Bowl win, and he's probably going to win the MVP this year for the second time?
Yeah.
I think he will.
By the time he's 27, he will have 2 MVPs.
Yeah.
Think about that.
It might be the greatest start to a career in the history of the NFL, but maybe one of the best starts in the history of pro sports.
Pro sport, yeah.
Major American pro sports. But anyway, get into the details of it. Kansas City beat Cincinnati 23-20. We started out working our way backwards, so I guess we can do it again. The most talked about play, but definitely not the sole reason why Cincinnati lost. But with 17 seconds left in the game on 3rd and 4, Patrick Mahomes does something remarkable. Let's talk about what he did that was remarkable first, because he got a high ankle sprain. He hadn't really been scrambling all game long. He had been able to extend plays. He had been able to move around in the pocket. He got outside of the pocket, but he wasn't really running and scrambling very often. That was one of the few times he did, and he made the Cincinnati Bengals pay on 3rd and 4. Scrambled for the first down, but on his way out of bounds while Joseph Ossai was in hot pursuit. He pushed him while he was out of bounds. Late hit, unsportsmanlike conduct, so a 15-yard penalty tacked on top of the first down run, and that was all she wrote, Harsh. That was all they needed after that. Field goal ended up giving the Kansas City Chiefs a 23-20 win, and they kept it close. It was 20-20 in regulation with 17 seconds left.
Yeah.
So that's about as tight as game as you can get. It's coin flip pretty much.
Yeah, and that's what we thought it was going to be. I mean, these two teams were so evenly matched coming into the game. And you knew that coming in because of the spread and the way that they were going about it. Patrick Mahomes being a dog at home, which was very rare also. So you start there and you're like, okay, how is this game going to be affected by the fact that Patrick Mahomes can't run? Mm-hmm. I mean, he wasn't going to be that guy, but he did enough. He gutted it out, made a big play when he needed to. But you also were thinking about Joe Burrow and his way of going about the season and what they look like whenever they go into Arrowhead. He doesn't seem to be a guy that's fazed by much, and that's why we call him Joe Shiesty, Joe Cool. That's what he was looking into. But this game came down to certain plays, and most importantly, a lot of people want to keep talking about the officiating and what was called and what wasn't called. Doesn't matter either way, because to your point, it was right down the middle. The game was tight at the entire time. So you start looking and saying, okay, who's going to make a play? And that's what ended up happening. Patrick Mahomes make a play,
made the play.
And Joseph Ossai hustling. And he's going to learn from this. He's going to grow from this. This is probably going to fuel him because he was playing the entire game hard. I mean, you start looking at go back and watch the game. He was making play after play, and he was around the ball the entire time. His excitement and his aggressiveness just came back to hurt him at the very end. So you had to take it for what it is. But there were plenty of opportunities that they missed prior to that.
Totally agree.
Joe Burrow threw 2 interceptions. I mean, that's something that he's not normally doing in that time. And you brought this up too, Rod, and I'll let you expand on it. The red zone offense, they weren't good.
They were not good.
They didn't do what they needed to do in the red zone.
Yeah, in a 2020 game like that, Joe Burrow usually he's clutch. He's known as, you talked about his clutch gene. That's usually what he's known for. Mm-hmm. And clutch means situational football. You're at your best. And, of course, in clutch time, when the game's on the line, you're at your best. They got the ball twice in the fourth quarter, game tied 2020. And I kept thinking to myself, here it comes.
Yep, this is it.
This is Burrow time, baby. Yep. This is when you don't want the game tied with this guy having the ball in clutch time. And you got a first drive. The first drive, he got one first down and interception.
Yep.
And on the second drive, or with the game tied in the fourth quarter, Joe Burrow led his offense to 2 first downs and a punt.
Yep.
So it was for the most part, that Chiefs defense, they held Joe Burrow in check in clutch time. And you brought up the interceptions, and that's a big point. The turnovers, Sarge, because Joe Burrow was basically a riverboat gambler in that game. He was gambling with the deep ball. Mm-hmm. Passes 20 yards or more in there. Threw 10 of them in that game. And he was basically trying to take advantage of the one-on-one coverage. And sometimes Joe Burrow was throwing into double coverage.
Yes.
Matter of fact, he threw the touchdown and the fourth down.
Yep.
The fourth down by Ja'Marr Chase was in double coverage. Yep. He was chunking him deep in double coverage. So like I said, he was gambling a lot. And it paid off for him. He was 6 of 10 on those deep balls. 2 touchdowns, 146 yards. But when you gamble, sometimes you lose.
Yep.
And he lost twice, big, 2 interceptions. And I think in a game that tight, where you have a very small margin for error, unfortunately, Joe Burrow's 2 picks when he was gambling on those deep balls, they came back to haunt him. Now, 6 of 10 is a really good percentage on deep balls, 2 touchdowns, but he was throwing into double coverage.
Yes. So you knew your luck.
It should have been more than 2
exactly.
interceptions.
I was going to say your luck was going to run out.
Yeah.
And it goes back to what we talked about. You're doing that, got sacked 5 times. Chris Jones was playing an unbelievable football game on the other side for Kansas City. But throwing in the double coverage, I still remember him being interviewed, and he says, yeah, I'll just throw it up sometimes because I know Ja'Marr is down there somewhere. And it's like, what?
Yeah.
but you've been having success.
If Dak said that, you ought to crucify Dak.
Oh, my goodness.
I just throw it down there sometimes. I think CD
down
there.
CD going to make the play for me. I'm like, what game have you been watching? What game have you been watching? CD's not going to do that for you. But, yeah, I'm with you on that. And it is good to see what Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and more importantly, we give that offense for Kansas City so much love because of Kelce and because of Mahomes. But that defense rose to the occasion yesterday and played their butt off as well.
Man, I call him Junk Jones because at the combine, when he was running his 40-yard dash,
right.
His shorts exploded and his junk came out. He finished the 40 running with his junk out at the combine. And ever since I called him Junk Jones, but he needs a better nickname than that. He deserves it. Maybe he's Junk Jones because he turns other players into trash in front of him. But he had 6. How about this? Joe Burrow was pressured 12 times, and 6 of those came from Chris Jones alone. He had 6 pressures, 3 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 5 quarterback hits. He was a one-man wrecking crew out there. Mm-hmm. That 3rd and 8 where Spagnuolo puts him at defensive end, moves him from the interior, puts him at defensive end, so he's matched up against Adeniji. And that was brilliant because he ended up getting the sack on Joe Burrow on that play. And let's not forget, y'all must have forgot, as Roy Jones said. Y'all must have forgot because, Junk Jones basically won the Super Bowl for the Kansas City Chiefs a couple of years ago when he had those 2 big pass deflections in the 4th down on crucial downs against the 49ers. So when this guy comes to play, it's only a couple of guys in the league that are on his level are better than Chris Jones, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, watch out. Junk Jones when he gets his mindset.
Jones.
Yeah, Junk Jones. Yeah, and he was.
I remember that.
Oh, you remember that?
Yeah, I do
crazy?
remember that.
Junk just exploded.
Out
of his shorts.
Everybody was like, and the cameras was they were trying to take it away, but they were trying to get the speed.
And he was trying to grab the junk as he ran. And I was like, oh man. Someone says Junkyard Jones. I like that. Junkyard Jones is pretty good. But he's the real deal, man. That guy is a freak, and he was a one-man wrecking crew out there.
Yeah, no doubt. And that's what they needed. He said he needed to make plays because he didn't give them enough last year in this game, which is why they felt like Joe Burrow and his Cincinnati Bengals made it to the Super Bowl because he didn't show up in that game, and he wanted to make amends for that. And that's exactly what he did. It was when you start looking at it and you realize, too, because you brought this up earlier, they shifted him out to the defensive end position, and then he started attacking those replacement linemen because they had to bring in 3 different linemen, and they saw where the weakness was.
Great point.
And they were like, go get the quarterback, and that's exactly what he did.
That's a great point. They're basically just moving him around to get a matchup advantage. It's like they're missing 3 O-linemen. And by the way, give Cincinnati credit because early in that game, I was thinking to myself, this is going to be a blowout. Cincinnati cannot block Kansas City.
Exactly.
Remember, Kansas City in the first quarter alone, they had 2 sacks. Sorry, they had 4 sacks in the first quarter. 4 sacks in the first quarter by the end of it with a 50% pressure rate. And then for the next 3 quarters, Kansas City only had a 25% pressure rate and only 1 sack in the final 3 quarters of the game. And that 5-sack number is crucial. I gave this number earlier. And give Cincinnati credit. They tried to address it in the offseason. Nobody knows if you're going to be missing, 3 linemen when you get this deep in the playoffs. So they did their best. But Joe Burrow now 21-1 when he sacked fewer than 5 times. He's 1-8 when he sacked 5 or more times. You get to Joe Burrow. That's when they got to that.
Just think about that.
4 sacks in the first quarter.
Yeah,
when they got to 4 sacks in the first quarter, I was like, it's going to be a blowout because that's the way it works when Joe Burrow gets sacked that much. But they made adjustments.
They did make adjustments.
They made the adjustments.
And going back to what my man Chris Jones said, he said, my whole offseason was dedicated to this game.
Wow.
He said after the win. He said, I missed a few big plays last year. It's unfortunate that they were able to move forward, and I put that on my shoulders. So this offseason, I dedicated my whole offseason to making sure when that moment calls, for me specifically, that I will answer that call.
Wow.
So he was waiting for that game.
That's amazing.
He's like, get us to this game, and I'll wreck shop. And
He
to
did.
your point, you brought the numbers up earlier, 4 tackles, including 3 for loss, 2 sacks, 5 quarterback hits, and 6 quarterback pressures.
And you got in the Kansas City defense, he was the war daddy on the D-line, and so it started with him. But man, they made plays. Those youngsters made plays.
Them corners and those safeties.
Yeah, you talking about rookies.
Yep.
Kansas City got clutch plays from rookies in the secondary, like Horace just mentioned. Jalen Watson got an interception early. Brian Cook and Joshua Williams with they had the tip drill interception there. Hell, just to keep going with the rookies, Pacheco was big. 5 receptions, 59 yards at that big run where he ended up breaking like 3 tackles on there where Tony Romo, I don't know what he was about to say. Tony Romo had I don't know what that was. Anyway, I'm a homosexual. I love me some Romo. Then Sky Moore, and we talk about this enough. Honestly, this game goes to overtime if not for the subpar punt return defense.
Oh my goodness.
The punt coverage of Cincinnati, because Kansas City's Sky Moore had a 29-yard punt return before the Joseph Ossai penalty and the scramble by Patrick Mahomes. And honestly, that's what was probably the biggest play of the fourth quarter for Kansas City, because that got him in field goal position with just a little bit of time left for Mahomes to make a miracle happen.
Yeah. And you sit there and you look at what Joseph did, and obviously he feels awful about it, but it's timing, right? It was timing of the game, where it is. You know that they have to get to they weren't going to get to field goal range the way that everything was setting up. It was going to end up being a Hail Mary. You're going to end up going into overtime, and you're going to be able to adjust from there. So, you look at that play, and you saw him on the sideline crying and realizing that. But when you look at what Kansas City was able to do with Patrick Mahomes being injured, him toughing it out, and he still he threw the ball almost 43 times.
43 times.
Yeah, so it's like that was going to be their game plan, and they knew that they were going to have to make plays that way. But you still have to look at the work that they put in to be there. They only ran for 42 yards in this game.
All Mahomes, man.
They said, we're going to put it on your shoulders and let's go get it.
Well, and not only you got the high ankle sprain, so he's hobbled there, ends up making the biggest play using his legs, which he basically had 1.5 of. He lost 3 of his top receivers.
Yeah.
In the game. Juju Smith-Schuster left the game. McCole Hardman left the game. Kadarius Toney left the game. And, they just had guys dropping like flies in that game. So they were a very depleted wide receiving core. It was just him and Kelsey on offense getting it done. And on defense, talked about it, man. Defense played really well, starting with Chris Jones and those rookies. But also, I love this little stat. Talk about adjustments. The Chiefs played really aggressively when it came to Jamar Chase. They didn't really shut him down. They neutralized him. And hell, in a lot of those plays, as we just mentioned, they were throwing to Jamar Chase. He was in double coverage. It's like, man, we got him double covered. He's just out there making plays. He's a great player. How about this? They played press coverage against Jamar Chase on 60% of his routes. and basically made sure they pressed him. So he had 3 catches on 61 yards on 4 targets when he was playing against bump and run coverage. So they pressed him a ton, and they made sure they got up in his face and made life really tough on him. And the Bengals, I thought they should have been more aggressive offensively. They didn't go empty as much as I thought they should have. They only went empty like 6% of the time. Joe Burrow has been great out of empty. Last year they ran it second most in the league, helped them get to the Super Bowl. Thought they should have did more of that to force Kansas City to expose those young DBs across the board, and then you can put your best wide receivers in the slot against those young DBs potentially. But they didn't do enough of that, but it was just a great game overall, great adjustments made. And by the way, can't say enough about Lou Anarumo. Even with the Chiefs winning that game, they only scored 23 points.
Yep.
They only scored 23 points.
That's why he finally got a job interview. I mean,
that's a great
finally
point.
got a call for an interview to be a head coach, which we were talking about early in the season. Like, I don't think enough people are talking about how good of a job he's doing as the DC for the Cincinnati Bengals.
He's killing it, man.
Yeah.
You go look at the basically 7 playoff games that Burrow has been the starter in the Burrow era. Cincinnati has scored between 19 and 27 points in all those games. They've allowed no more than 24 points.
Give me that number. Let me get that number.
Lou Anarumo's always giving you a chance.
Yep.
Oh, and think about it, against elite quarterbacks. You're talking about against Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. You're talking about the best quarterback against Matt Stafford last year, against some really good quarterbacks, not just scrubs. And he's had fantastic game plans and adjustments. Love me some Lou Anarumo. All right, let's get to the NFC side of things. A little easier to break down this matchup because it just came down to the 49ers losing their third-string quarterback for the rest of the season, which obviously wasn't much of a season because that was their last game. They lost Brock Purdy because of a Hassan Reddick hit in the first quarter. And I love me some Shano. You guys know that. And I picked the 49ers to win, but I didn't know their starting quarterback would get hurt.
On the second play. Nobody knew that. Right? Nobody knew that.
On the 6th play from scrimmage, I believe it was, totally. So, no, I didn't see that coming. But what I will say is that I'll blame Shano for a terrible opening script, which basically, in his opening, I don't know why or how, but his opening script called for tight ends to block Hassan Reddick, a guy with 17 sacks. I didn't know that was going to happen. On the play where Brock Purdy gets hurt, he's got Tyler Kroft blocking Hassan Reddick, a guy who has 17.5 sacks going into the game. And then on the other play where he sacks Josh Johnson after knocking out Brock Purdy on that play, on the play where he sacks Josh Johnson, almost takes the ball away, my man Shano's got Jawan Jennings and Kittle blocking him. And they both whiff. I'm talking about Olay style, bullfighter style. Whiff, and he just goes untouched. And then it hits Josh Johnson. I thought Josh Johnson was hurt then, by the way. He wasn't.
Yeah.
And I think
he needs to go to fall school, too, because he fell straight back on both of those plays.
He did. Yeah, right. It's a good point.
I'm like, how do you fall straight back? Yeah. Not even try to protect yourself.
What Bucky always said about Tua?
Exactly.
Tua don't know how to fall?
Does not know how to fall.
And Bucky's right about that.
Yeah.
But to me, Harge, those are the two just dang coaching mistakes. And usually you can recover from a coaching mistake. You move on. You take a sack, bad play, negative play, you move on. You didn't recover from that one because that one knocked out your third-string quarterback.
Yeah.
And that was it. That's all she wrote.
That was the end of the game.
It did all the preparation and game planning. None of that mattered when you knocked Brock Purdy out of the game. They had no shot, really. They threw the 18 pass attempts by the 49ers were the fewest in a conference title game loss in Super Bowl era. They knew they couldn't throw them. They only threw it for 83 passing yards?
Yes. The whole game was terrible. They had 83 passing yards and 81 rushing yards in the game. You didn't have a chance.
Come on, Shannon.
And you held him to Jalen Hurts to 121 yards passing, and you would think, oh yeah, here we go. You got a shot at it. If you just blind looked at that, you would be like, oh yeah, I think they won.
I think we got a good shot here.
Yeah, I think we got a shot.
Yeah, the box score does not tell the story of that game.
Exactly.
The box score does not tell the story of that game because if you look at the box score, because I'm with you, Howard, you go look at the individual performance by Philly, and you're thinking to yourself, I told you before the game, all right, Jalen Hurts' stats are going to be 15 of 25, 121 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and a 72 passer rate. You go, I'll take that.
Yeah, I'm in there.
Fan.
We in there.
Yeah, if I told you, Miles Sanders, 11 rushes for 42 yards. Kenneth Gainwell, 14 rushes for 48 yards. You've been like, I was like, Jalen Hurts, 11 rushes for 39 yards. You go, I'll take that.
Yeah.
All day, every day, and twice on Sunday. What about Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown? They must have went off, right? Not really.
No.
Two receptions for 36 yards and 4 receptions for 28 yards. You go, well, what the hell happened?
Exactly.
They knocked Brock Purdy out of the game, and they knocked your fourth-string quarterback out of the game. So you didn't have a quarterback that actually could throw a forward pass in the game. And I love this from my man, Rodney Rodriguez. I love Rod. He does a great job. And he tweeted at me during the game and said, hey, Rod B, they figured out how to stop Shannon's offense. They just had – basically, hear this. We found a weakness in Shannon's system. Without a functioning quarterback, it won't work. Yeah. They won't.
They won't.
Even if they're bad quarterbacks, he'll make a bad one look good, but they got at least made to throw a forward pass.
They couldn't get it.
And honestly, it's Shannon's fault.
Yep.
I'm going to blame Shannon for that one. I'm blaming Shannon for that one. You had tight ends blocking one of the top 10 best pass rushers in the league. That's a dang coaching mistake, and you paid dearly for it.
Like dearly, like nobody's there for you to play quarterback.
Exactly.
That's how dearly you pay for it.
Why would you do that when you're on your third-string quarterback?
Exactly. You got to be prepared for this.
Pass protection should be, top priority. And then my man Cornwall Property says Purdy out 6 months with UCL injury. Yeah, I think he's going to need surgery.
He's going to need surgery.
Yeah,
He's getting a second opinion right now to see if he does. When you tear that, when you have that as your injury, which is why when he came back in the game, all he could do was run a screen play, and he could hand off the ball. You really had no shot. That means something was more than that, because this is a kid who had his opportunity. This was if he could have went back out there.
If he was 60%, he would have
went back out there and tried to fight his way through that, and that ruined everything. So yeah, he's going to need that work. But I do want to point this out. The 49ers' recent playoff history, starting in 2011, 2012, they lost in the NFC Championship game. 2012, 2013, they lost the NFL title. That was the New Orleans game where the power went out. Beyonce did the show, the power went out.
The brothers facing each other, Harbaugh and Harbaugh, right?
Yep, Harbaugh and Harbaugh. In 2013, 2014, they lost in the NFC Championship game. 2019, 2020, they lost in the Super Bowl. Last year, they lost in the NFC Championship game, and this year they lost in the NFC Championship game. Mind you, Kyle Shanahan took over the team in 2017, but going all the way back to 2011, that has been their recent run in the playoffs.
Yeah. The 49ers organization understands, except I think there's one basic rule of kind of the NFL, where the salary cap has you going, and kind of the new age of the NFL as it relates to quarterbacks and roster building. If you don't have an elite quarterback, and by the way, truth is there's like 5 or 6 of those guys in the league right now.
Right.
Maybe 8 if you really want to stretch it out. If you ain't got one of those 8 guys, you do need to reset every 4 or 5 years.
Right.
And just reset your entire roster and reset the timeline and reset the championship window. And if you do that, you actually have a better chance to succeed rather than investing everything you have into a quarterback he's not elite, but he's not bad. He's actually in like the top third. Okay, top third, let's invest all in.
Right.
If you do that, I mean, it may work out for you, but the 49ers and the Eagles are showing you, no, every 4 or 5 years, just reset the clock. Just scrap every damn thing and go, we got a 4 or 5 year window. And if we don't hit it in 4 or 5 years, we got to reset it. 49ers are doing it with Trey Lance right now. Yep. Thank God they did. Because with Brock Purdy out now for 6 months, Trey Lance is going to be the guy going forward until him and Brock Purdy can, they can actually compete for that starting spot. And Philadelphia has done it 3 times now.
Right.
All right. And by the way, Philadelphia at one time, they were the model, kind of what the Cowboys are going with in most NFL teams, which is, we got a quarterback like Donovan McNabb. Is he elite? No. But he's one of the better quarterbacks in the league. Okay, what's Andy Reid? He's an elite coach. An elite head coach with a top third quarterback. I'll take that.
Yep.
Then you can win. And by the way, they won some games that way. For the Cowboys, do you have any elite coach? I don't know. Maybe. Do you? I don't know. You ask me. You tell me. Do you have an elite quarterback? No. So I don't know if you're necessarily
you answered that one fast.
Yeah, that was easy.
You're like, do you have a coach? I don't know. You have a league coach? No.
No, you don't. So, and honestly, you should be paying attention to the 49ers and the Eagles and being, you know what, we should need to reset the clock every 4 or 5 years because, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. The Eagles don't do that. The 49ers don't do that.
Right.
And when they find an elite quarterback, I think they'll go all in on that elite quarterback. But the Eagles haven't really found one of those, and they know that.
Yep.
They're realistic about it. The 49ers were realistic about, no, Cap is what he is. He's going to run this system. That's what he is.
Yep.
And the 49ers have been realistic about who Jimmy G was. Remember, they had a playoff game where Jimmy G threw 8 passes. Do you remember this game?
I do
You remember him playing
this.
the Packers and throwing 8 passes? I thought in this game, I said, oh, man, please let Shano win this game and have him go throw like 8 or 9 passes in the game. Didn't happen because Philly is too damn good.
Yeah, I was going to say Philly was way better.
Way better. But
Yeah.
you get my point. So my point, they knew what Jimmy G was.
Right.
They weren't going to invest all in Jimmy G. No. We got a timeline here. We got a window. When that window's over, we're going to shut that window and open up another one.
No doubt.
And that's what they do.
That's
but
what they
now
do.
we're talking about the 49ers. I don't know what they're going to do at quarterback. I wouldn't doubt if they try to make a move for one of these vets.
Oh, I was
like
gonna
a
say.
Brady. I don't know if Rodgers fits in the salary cap.
Well, they've already said they're going to make a move, and so, I mean, not
Because Shannon
not
knows
them.
he's close. Shannon knows he's right there.
I mean, he's been there.
Right there.
He's been
He's
twice.
right there. He's tired of knocking on the door, and now he wants to bang on that damn thing.
If they catch
right
that,
there.
if they catch that interception last year, they would have been in the championship game.
Hell, man, if you're on your second string quarterback instead of your third string quarterback,
Exactly.
you still probably win.
Because your second string was Jimmy.
Exactly. And
So
your
you
third
would've been in
your
there.
third was Brock Purdy.
Yeah, you would've been in
still
there.
would have had a shot.
Yeah.
You ended up with Josh Johnson of all people. Josh Johnson of all people.
The journeyman.
Why is Josh Johnson still in the league? If I can't make a roster and I'm a quarterback, I would be so upset because Josh Johnson is still in the league.
He was probably coaching somewhere and talking about, I think my arm is still in good. He's got a great agent, by the way.
He does have a great agent.
He has a great agent. I don't know who he is, but he got a great one.
Sam Ellinger, get Josh Johnson's agent. So you can
doubt.
still, because you're better than Josh Johnson, Sam. You know that. That's how you should always keep a job.
Yes.
You're like, I'm better than Josh Johnson.
For
I know.
sure.
Yes, you are,
Yes,
Sam.
you are.
All right, we'll come right back, and we'll get into Rod's Rap of the Day. Tell you something special about Jalen Hurts that sets him apart for the rest of these
Come on,
quarterbacks.
baby.
We'll do that when we come back right here on Ball Don't Lie on 104.9 The Horn.
Mike Harge here, and I want to talk to you about Quick Roofing. The story of Quick Roofing is inspiring. Jeff Quick started Quick Roofing in 1984 with just one roof, and now 39 years later, he's done over 200,000 projects. You can't stay in business that long if you're not taking care of your customers, and of course, you have to have a great reputation of customer service. Here's some of the reasons why I chose it, and I think you should too. Free, no obligation inspection. You get a 7-year workmanship warranty. Quick Roofing is fully insured and have all state and local licenses. Quick Roofing doesn't even require any money up front until 100% completion and, of course, 100% satisfaction. Quick Roofing requires that a project manager is on every job site, ensuring that the customer gets everything that you were promised. So what are you waiting for? Do yourself a favor and reach out today and get that free inspection. Go to quickroofing.com today. That is quickroofing.com.
All right, welcome back to Ball Don't Lie and Raj Rant of the Day. We're going to be talking about the Eagles and the Chiefs for the next 2 weeks. So slowly but surely, I'll be putting together different pieces in Raj Rant of the Day so that we get to know both of these teams, but more importantly, get to know the athletes that are participating in the Super Bowl. That's the best part of the Super Bowl. You got enough time to get in some of these deep stories about these players and why they have taken the path that they did to success. Jalen Hurts, really interesting story. Now, I remember when Jalen Hurts was drafted, I remember telling people, I was like, man, I like that pick. And most of the people at the time did not like the Jalen Hurts pick. And I totally understand why. At the time, I thought, oh, it's a great pick because the NFL's a copycat league and the Taysom Hill craze was starting. It was like the Taysom Hill craze. And I was like, oh, they definitely want him to play a Taysom Hill role potentially. There were several teams in the NFL, actually Frank Reich being one of them around that time too with the Colts, and also, of course, New Orleans Saints with Taysom Hill. They were using multiple quarterbacks for different things, all right? And like this situational football and for strange purposes, try to throw off the defense. And I thought, okay, there could be a place for Jalen Hurts there, but also Doug Peterson, I remember him saying that he saw a lot of Lamar Jackson in Jalen Hurts. That was his comp that he kept giving. I remember giving it multiple times before they drafted him. I was like, man, it's an interesting comp to give that kind of comp. And he was also on his staff at the time, Doug Peterson, I don't know if he's on his staff with Jacksonville, was Marty Morningwig. And remember, Marty Morningwig was a senior offensive consultant, and he was on the Ravens staff when they chose Lamar Jackson. And he was a big advocate of them drafting Lamar Jackson. So, obviously, the football world is a small one. So I remember that draft pick, and at the time, he was seen as either a backup project quarterback, developmental project, or, like I said, he was going to be your utility guy for whatever reason, maybe 2-point conversion. Doug Peterson led the NFL as a head coach when they had their Super Bowl run with the Eagles in 2-point conversions and 4th down conversions. And I figured, he's going to use Jalen Hurts as a 4th down conversion weapon or a 2-point conversion weapon of some sort. And he didn't really get a chance to test out that theory or to weaponize Jalen Hurts because Doug Peterson was out, and of course they brought in Nick Sirianni. May have been the best damn thing that ever happened to Jalen Hurts, actually, and he brought in Shane Steichen, who is their offensive coordinator. But I was starting to look at the different systems that Jalen Hurts has already played under, and this is his 3rd year in the league. Played 4 years. Did he get 4 years in college? 4 years in college, correct?
Yeah, because he went
to Alabama for 2
years, 2 seasons. And then went to
Oklahoma
for 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Because I get mixed up these days with all the extra eligibility, so I apologize. I didn't want to discount the man.
Yeah.
But too much 4 years in college, and then you go look at his short time in the NFL so far, and he's already in those 7 years, he's already worked with multiple offensive play callers and coordinators. Think about it, Bama. He had 3 different play callers.
Mm-hmm.
Lane Kiffin, Brian Dable, and Mike Locksley were all of his play callers there. And remember, they all ran very different systems.
Absolutely.
It wasn't like they were running something similar. No. Lane Kiffin was a run-heavy RPO system, a lot of play-action pass, bootlegs, zone read, and tempo. No huddle. All right, Brian Dable, we know in the league now, pro-style guy. That's a lot of pro-style concepts. Still used the zone read. Zone read might be one of the things that kind of linked all of these things together. Zone read, but more pro-style concepts. Pro-style passing attack with Brian Dable.
And just so you know, there was 3 years at Oklahoma. 3 years at
Alabama.
Alabama, one
at Oklahoma.
OU.
Yeah. And Mike Locksley, he had a lot of pre-snap motion and pre-snap movement, and he ran a ton of RPOs. He loved the RPO concept. He was big in the RPOs. So there are some commonalities with these systems, but not quite the same. And, of course, Lincoln Riley is an air raid system, which is essentially installed. It's basically a triple option offense, which is what Mike Gundy once called it. He said, it's just an old-school triple option offense. Doug Peterson famously ran a heavy RPO-based offense, and he even implemented his RPO-based offense based off of Chip Kelly, because when Chip Kelly was on the Philadelphia staff as their head coach, and they drafted Nick Foles. One of the things that helped Nick Foles have a historic season, actually, with the Eagles that year was the RPO concepts. By the way, Chip Kelly is the one that popularized run-pass option concepts in the NFL. They were running them before, but nobody ran them with the frequency and the gratuitous amounts of them like Chip Kelly did. And when they brought Nick Foles back under Doug Peterson said, I need to know what happened and why he was so successful when he was here the first time with Chip Kelly. And everybody told him, we just ran a ton of RPOs. They ran more RPOs than any team in the NFL at the time. And Nick Foles was really comfortable running RPOs. And Doug Peterson said, okay, well, that's what we're going to do. We're just going to run RPOs, a ton of them. If that's what he's comfortable with, they end up winning the Super Bowl running those RPO concepts after Carson Wentz goes down. But anyway, I digress. Getting back to it. So in addition to Doug Peterson and Lincoln Riley before him and Mike Locksley and Brian Daboll and Lane Kiffin, and now you got him running the Shane Steichen / Sirianni system, which is a multiple option offense. Maybe even not even triple option. You're talking about quadruple and quintuple options, quintuple options, if you will. So that is something kind of revolutionary in itself. They run, a lot of the zone read concepts. They also run a ton of RPOs. They love package plays as well, just trying to make Jalen Hurts a threat on multiple levels. But most offensive skill talent, or even quarterbacks for sure, when you're dealing with that much turnover in philosophy, in terminology, in ideology all over, it usually forces skill sets to regress because they're having to learn so much new stuff. Every year it's a new system, so they got to learn the new techniques in a new system and the new coaching points of a new system, the terminologies, all this kind of stuff. And usually it forces somebody to end up, losing ground. They for some reason they struggle. I remember for Alex Smith. Remember Alex Smith back in the day? He had like 6 different offensive coordinators in his first 7 years in the league. As a matter of fact, he had 9 different offensive coordinators in his first 8 years. Right. And everybody thought, oh, man, that's big reason why he's struggling. And it was. And when he got Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy and they had some consistency, boom. All right. Alex Smith was great. I don't know if he had Eric Bieniemy back then. But my point is, he had Andy Reid, just one guy there, and he got some consistency out of it. And I think that was a big part of why they got the best out of Alex Smith. Of course, they moved on to Patrick Mahomes. And, we haven't seen that regression with Jalen Hurts. It's strange. It should almost be expected. A quarterback who's built with, 6 different offensive systems in his 7 years playing elite football. Kiffin, Daboll, Locksley, Riley, Doug Peterson, and Steichen Sirianni's system. I think Steichen he actually calls a lot of those plays, and Nick Sirianni gave up the play calling, but it is Nick Sirianni's system too. But that's amazing. There's a great book that talks about this very subject. It's called The Obstacle is the Way, and it's a really good book. Go check it out. I think Ryan Holiday was the author of it. And it talks about how the impediment action advances action. Like the impediment to action advances action. Like basically you having the plan and you having the fortitude to overcome whatever obstacles, adversity are in front of you, that will actually cause you to build up the necessary skills to become great. If you don't overcome the obstacle, well, then you'll never be great. But if you do actually overcome that obstacle, whatever it may be, everybody's is different, then you will, in order to overcome that, you must develop a certain set of skills. And while overcoming that adversity and developing and cultivating those skills, that'll make you great.
I thought you was about to talk about Liam Neeson.
I
got a special set of skills.
Yeah, but I almost feel like that's Jalen Hurts.
Yep.
Like the obstacle was, man, you got a new system every year. You got a new offense. You got to figure out. It seems like there's a lot of turnover. And for most, I think it would force a regression. I think for most, it would place them at a disadvantage. But for him, because he's so determined and because he has such a great, and by the way, he's a coach's kid. That matters too. I think that's a big part of his football DNA. And because he's been so determined, he has such resolve, he's been able to intrinsically turn what should have been disadvantages into advantages for him. And now he's a quarterback that can play in multiple different types of systems, even though most people kind of pigeonholed him coming out as a quarterback that has a ceiling.
Right.
And I'm not saying he doesn't have a ceiling, but the fact that he has been so versatile in his early upbringing as a quarterback just shows you that he has a much higher ceiling and upside than people are willing to give him credit for, and I think we're witnessing it right now this year.
Man.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys that is just transcending the position because he went and put the work in. I saw a special on him the other night, and you forget, I was at the game where he got benched for Tua. I was in the national championship game where Tua came off the bench, and I was doing my homework about them, but I didn't realize who Tua was. And I'm like, why is everybody talking to that guy at the media days? Like, everybody wanted to talk to Tua. Hurts had his podium meeting. Everybody's over there, but then everybody just like raced to Tua.
Yep.
I'm like, so I started looking. I'm like, oh, okay, this guy's supposed to be special. They benched him. He came in. The touchdown came right into our laps.
It's crazy.
We were on the field at the time when he made that touchdown, and I was like, oh, that is right. And he threw that pass, by the way, to Devontae Smith.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember that.
All freshmen.
And that's why, honestly, that's why they won the game.
Right.
Because that was the one player who Kirby Smart could not game plan for because he was a freshman, and Kirby Smart knew that roster inside and out, knew every player, knew every game plan.
That's right.
The one thing he could not game plan for was Tua. He didn't know him.
Exactly.
He never even seen him.
Right.
Other than recruiting him himself, he didn't know.
Right.
So that's a great point. I didn't realize that either. But I think Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts both being coaches' kids and from coaching families has also helped. And it's a kind of, you can't really quantify it. It's kind of an unquantifiable factor. But I think it's meant a lot in their chemistry, in their bonding. You coach's sons, you live a certain type of life. I say about it.
Yep.
Coach's sons, they live a certain. I know my boy Shano.
Yep.
Coach's sons, they live a certain kind of life, and they can bond about that because they're very similar. And Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts, both coach's sons, I think you're seeing also really high football IQ for coach's sons. They
Very
know ball.
much so.
They know ball, and Jalen Hurts definitely knows ball.
And they know temperament too.
Yep.
That's why you can see him being calm, cool, and collected
It's a
all the time.
great point about
they
Jalen Hurts.
understand the temperament.
Yeah, and
Nothing phases
and
him.
understands leadership.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, Jalen Hurts is a great leader, man. Definitely got the intangibles and the immeasurables. And I see my man CB said he wanted to be a Longhorn. Yeah.
So did everybody, man.
Yeah, he wanted to be a Longhorn.
I think everything for all those people that wanted to be Longhorns that didn't get a chance at the quarterback position.
Yeah.
There you go. Just let it go.
Yeah, he
Just
did.
let it go.
He wanted to be a Longhorn. Yeah, I mean, I remember that story too being out there about him wanting to be a Longhorn. I think Tom Herman was a Jalen Hurts fan.
Yeah.
And now we're all becoming Jalen Hurts fans. Throw that out there.
Big time.
All right, we come back. We'll get into another Off the Record right here on Ball Don't Lie. 104.9 Horn. Welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. Smooth Soul Monday edition of Ball Don't Lie. Please, everybody, be safe out on the roads. Weather's supposed to be getting crazy for the next couple of days, so make sure you stay warm, but also you stay safe. All right, off the record here, what the hell's going on at the Dallas Zoo? What the hell's happening, man?
They just feel like they should just let every animal be free.
They're losing animals and misplacing animals?
Yeah.
2 primates at the Dallas Zoo have allegedly been kidnapped, ape-napped. I don't know how you want to say it. At least that's what the zoo is saying. They've had a bizarre string of disappearances at the zoo. That's one of the few places you don't want to hear about something like that disappearing. Like seeing about stuff disappearing that's actually, not going to do any harm. You're like, oh, that's sad, but stuff is disappearing. You don't want people disappearing.
Right.
You don't want to lose track of animals who could potentially be dangerous and be a public safety hazard. So 2 primates have disappeared now. Zoo officials notified Dallas PD Monday that a couple of their emperor tamarin monkeys were missing from their habitats. And worse, they claim there's evidence of tampering in the restricted areas that house the creatures. So they believe the monkeys were actually taken. The cops are already looking into it, and because it's an open investigation, not many details are available. If you'll recall, this is the same zoo where a clouded leopard escaped its own enclosure earlier this month, prompting a shutdown of the place and a massive search. The leopard ended up being found on the ground soon after, but zoo officials claimed afterwards that its habitat had been cut through, suggesting someone let the big cat out intentionally.
Come on.
There are 2 other strange animal incidents that have occurred at the Dallas Zoo of late, including another alleged breach in an enclosure with langur monkeys, as well as an endangered vulture being found dead at the facility. Now 2 ape primates are unaccounted for, and there seems to be a concern that a possible repeat offender, somebody who's terrorizing the zoo, could be out there afoot. We could use Ace Ventura around this time.
We need a pet detective.
We need the pet detective right now.
I'm on my way.
We could use it. But what is happening?
I have no idea.
What is going on at this zoo, man?
See, that's
you got cameras at this zoo?
Well, see, that's the thing that bothers me. I get nervous a lot of times when there's some strange animals just roaming.
Amen, brother.
When you're walking and you see that, hey, they're in a cage, and you know them big primates.
Mm-hmm.
Once they get close, they're going to rip faces off. There's nothing. Those things are strong, bro. I want no parts of those. I like going to the zoo. I like looking at the animals, but they need to be far away.
Agreed.
I always worry. I'm like, what if they get mad? Because they got strength. They got gorilla strength.
Mm-hmm.
I always wonder if they can break that glass.
Maybe they could do it. Probably would hurt themselves. Maybe, I don't know. Is that bulletproof glass?
I don't know.
I hope it's bulletproof, but
as
bulletproof
strong
is probably
as they
expensive. Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea if it is or not. That's a great question.
I want nothing to do with
Hopefully
any of that.
they're happy and content, and they don't want to destroy and maim and kill. But yeah, they are behind bars usually or something like that. That's why. So I'm assuming you've never been on a safari, or you won't ever go on a safari where you are driving through the habitat
especially
of
when
a wild kingdom.
Especially when you're in their domain.
In their hood.
That's
their
their
hood.
crib.
That's their hood.
I'm like, hey, man, I'm just a visitor. There's some neighborhoods you just don't go to.
I would do it, but I got to be in a car that's very secure, so I want to be in
Remember
like...
how you just said bulletproof?
Bulletproof, yeah, there you go.
car.
And my window's going to be up. And I might crack the window a little bit and look out the window.
It smells like outside.
Yeah, I want to make sure the gas tank is full and that we do have guns
You're doing the full
if necessary.
search.
Yes, yeah.
You're doing the full walk around, checking everything out.
We're going to do
with
that
you.
safari, man.
I'm
I
with
always
you
wanted
on
to
that.
go on one, but I want to make sure I'm safe.
I'm with
on
you
a
on
safari
that.
because I respect animals too much.
Yeah.
I respect them.
That's
people,
their crib.
People always say that, Robbie, why don't, because I tell people I don't go more than chest deep into the ocean when I walk out into the ocean.
Right.
I go into the ocean. It's beautiful. It's a serene moment.
Hurry up and take the selfie
But
so
exactly,
I can go.
your boy never goes, if my nipples are in the ocean, I went too far. You know what I mean? So I'm not going for that. That's because I respect the ocean.
Yeah.
I respect the ocean.
That's
the
their
ocean
crib.
It's their crib.
That's their crib.
I'm in their crib. They don't want me hanging out there, so I go just
Exactly.
far enough so I can experience it, and I'm back in. People will go run out to the ocean full speed, jump out there, and go swimming.
Yep.
All right? You want to go swimming like a half a mile out into the ocean just because you can?
Exactly.
Nah, no. No,
Nah,
you ain't
man.
got no respect for
that
the ocean.
undercurrent might grab you.
Exactly.
Jellyfish might reach up. You don't know what's over there. It
Shark,
might be an octopus.
anything.
Yeah.
To respect the ocean.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
If I can't see the bottom, not going to it. I got to be able to see the bottom.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't even those little tiny monkeys they talking about.
No.
I'm scared of them too.
Yeah, they're not trying to be your friend.
I respect nature too much.
You are human. They are not.
How many? Have you been to a national park before?
No.
I went to a Glacier, and oh man, it's crazy because when you first go there, someone says knees. Yeah, about the ocean. Yeah, knees here. I agree with you.
Yeah.
I went to the Glacier National Park, and I went into the store, and I went to the store just go buy like some water or something like that. And the first thing they have on display when you first walk into the store right before you get to Glacier is bear spray. And I said to him, I was like, hey. I was like, do I need this bear spray? He's like, I would suggest you have some on you.
See, there's no
and
reason
I was
for
like,
me to go.
How often do people encounter bears? He's like, every day. And I'm like, all right, I'm out. I can't. No. I went to Glacier National Park, but I got some bear spray.
Yep.
My wife told me I was overreacting. We did not encounter a bear.
That's
so he
good.
might have been trying to sell me some damn bear spray. But I'm going to have that bear spray.
I was going to say, you got the bear spray. I'd rather be safe than sorry.
You know what I mean? I'm going to have it on me. But yeah, out there, you can just wander up on some random animal. We wandered up on like some like mountain. It's like a mountain goat or something.
Yeah.
That was huge.
Yeah,
Thing
I want
was
no parts of that.
Oh, and people were like walking up to it. It was like, that thing could ram you and break your chest.
At any
and
moment.
You want to walk up to it and take a selfie with it. I'm like, nah, I'm good.
He might have had a bad day on his way over to you.
I was 30 yards away, and I was like, and I'm still ready to run.
Yeah.
And I was like, baby, I'm gonna leave you
Yeah.
if you ain't in your stride on.
You better get your bear spray.
All right, we'll come back. We'll talk about Cowboys making big moves, coaching moves. We'll talk about Kellen Moore having a new home already, and the Texans zeroing in on D'Amico Ryans. All that and more right here on Ball Don't Lie, 104.9 Horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. Let me tell you about Dr. Greg Eckert and his fantastic team. Now, it's Dr. Greg Eckert with a U. As a matter of fact, they call him Dr. U. U-E-C-K-E-R-T. That's how you spell it. With Dr. U, actually, it's appropriate because Dr. U is all about you. He's all about the patient, making sure you're getting the best quality dental care available. It doesn't matter what you need. General dentistry, even if you have dental anxiety. As a matter of fact, my man, Dr. U, specializes in easing your dental anxiety. So if you have any dental anxiety or any teeth whitening issues or dentures, porcelain crowns, veneers, dental implants, full mouth reconstruction, even root canal therapy, anything that has to do with your concerns about your dental health and your dental hygiene, Dr. Greg Eckert should be your call. Give him a call, 512-345-3166. You also can give him a call about getting a brand new smile in just one day. Now, he's always on the cutting edge of the technological advances in general dentistry, and right now, he can get you a brand new smile in one day, permanently secured to your dental implants. No time spent without teeth. You get temporary fixtures and say complete your permanent smile, and you'll smile again with confidence and eat freely without pain or discomfort. We're talking about a lifelike permanent solution. So what are you waiting for? You got nothing to lose and everything to gain because it's a complimentary consultation. So if you've been told your teeth need to be replaced, call Dr. Greg Eckert today and learn about this new revolutionary alternative to dentures. A brand new smile in just one day. It sounds too good to be true. It's not. It's just Dr. Greg Eckert with a U. 512-345-3166 or visit dreckert.com, DRUECKERT.com. All right, welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. Smooth Soul Monday edition of Ball Don't Lie on 104.9 The Horn. We got a lot of Cowboys talk to get into, and I'm glad we got my man Harge, our resident Cowboys fan, here to help us break it down. You can always be a part of the show. You're the most important part of this thing. 512-337-3776. That's the number to the Specs text line. You also can hit us up via Twitter. I'm at Rod Davis in the Twitterverse. I'm at Harge is at Hardball Harge in the Twitterverse, and Patrick Davis at It's Patrick Davis. But he is on his way to the mood, getting ready for Texas basketball versus Baylor for Big Monday. So my man Corey is back there twisting and tweaking the dials, and he is at why do I keep forgetting this? Corey
right
Gidry 11.
There it is.
Okay, in Twitter with a K, by the way.
With a K.
Love this text here. It says Rod has true PTSD. The man played the most violent, dangerous sport in America, and now he's scared of anything with some risk. That is true.
Very much.
I
so.
am not into what I have come to describe as organize life-risking activities for recreational purposes.
Love it.
Which a lot of my friends like to engage in, which may be water sports or this. Hell, you're going hike. Craig Way goes hiking like through the Appalachian Mountains. That is organized life-risking activity for recreational purposes. Football is an organized life-risking activity, but not for recreational purposes. I got paid, and I was on scholarship. So that's why I took that risk. I don't like taking unnecessary risks. And, yeah, I play football. It's risky, but I got paid, and I got a scholarship. So necessary risk for me.
Yep.
Yeah, me going out to go if you
deep sea fishing.
or going skiing.
Yeah.
Which I got a lot of friends. They take me skiing all the time, and I tell them I'm not going out there, but I will drink while y'all ski
I'll
and
be
hang
here
out
with
here in the
y'all.
club. I love hang out in the club and gig it. Boom. That's why I don't ski or do stuff like that. So I'm not against.
That's why I ride with Rod, baby, because we got the same thought process.
Yeah, we just
Matter of fact, I always revert to people and I was like, you know, in my contract, they told me I wasn't allowed to do those recreational sports.
That is true, though. That's a fact.
That is a fact. You are liable for your own injuries when it comes to that. So I always use that one as that.
You know what? I'm stealing that one from you, Hard. That's a damn good one. You're right. That was in your contract.
That was in
your agent would tell you,
right.
Hey, Hard, you going on vacation? Dude, don't be doing
Don't do
crazy
this,
stuff.
this, or this.
Don't get on the skateboard.
That's right.
Don't be. They would tell you that all the time.
For sure.
Great point, Harsh.
Yep.
That's you the man.
That's
Appreciate
why
that.
I use that to my best. I use it to
Boy,
my advantage.
Still use this contract
my
excuses
contractual obligations state I am
to
not
get out
allowed
of stuff.
to do this.
It's like, but you don't play ball no more.
Well, you know,
but
I still live by that code. You know what I'm saying? I still live by that code.
Oh, man, that's great. All right, well, Kellen Moore, he's living by a new code, and that code has him with the L.A. Chargers.
It's a
How about this,
different
Harsh?
area code.
Or he ain't like Ludacris, but he's a different area code. What are your thoughts? Were you surprised at the speed at which Kellen Moore got a new job? Because it took no time. How long was he on open market for? Maybe a day? Was it 24 hours?
It wasn't even 24
It wasn't
hours.
even 24.
It was
Okay.
like we had just heard about it on Sunday.
Yep.
We're texting each other. We're going through everything. And by the time we got ready to get up this morning, breaking news, Kellen Moore is now the offensive coordinator for the Los Angeles Chargers. I'm like, the dude just got fired.
Just got fired. I don't even know if he picked up all his stuff yet. His stuff was still there, probably.
I think he took it like the other day, like that last Friday. He was like, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take all my stuff just in case. Because if all the coaches are gone, I might want a different office now. so I'm going to go ahead and pack up all my stuff. And by that time, he was already on a plane to California.
Yeah,
He was already out there.
I love this though, Harge. I tell you, I love it for you Cowboys fans, and I'll tell you why. You guys have been dealing with this internal conflict, right? There's a cognitive dissonance, if you will, about Dak and Kellen Moore and who is responsible for this offense, and, not living up to expectations and not making enough big plays and big games, all those types of things. Is it more Kellen Moore? Is it Dak Prescott? And now with this grand experiment, you're actually going to be able to find out. You will get a little bit of closure here because Kellen Moore is upgrading in a lot of ways, right? His quarterback skill set upgrading with Justin Herbert. Some would say Chargers have a better wide receiving core than the Cowboys. So different weapons, and depending on the offensive line, I'm not sure if they have a better offensive line than the Cowboys. I think I may take the Cowboys O-line. But I digress. you have a quarterback with a higher ceiling. So if Kellen Moore goes there and takes Justin Herbert's game to the next level, then you got something to think about, Cowboys fans. And if Dak Prescott, with Mike McCarthy calling the plays or whoever the offensive coordinator may bring in, if he regresses, then you got something to think about. But it could happen with both parties now. Now they're separated. Now that they don't have each other in that relationship holding them back, they could potentially both go on to bigger and better things. We saw this with, let's not talking offseason about Tyreek Hill and Patrick Mahomes and how both of their games was going to fall off and both of the production would fall off for both of their players because they didn't have each other. Turns out they both had great years. They both had years just as good, if not better, than when they were together. That is my hope with Kellen Moore and Dak Prescott, is that now this group that, Kellen Moore and Dak Prescott, who are, as I said, they have a maybe unique is a better way to describe it, unique relationship, probably more unique than any other OC quarterback relationship in the NFL because they competed against one another. They were on the same roster. Then Kellen was his quarterback coach and now his OC. Nobody's really had that path to becoming an OC and quarterback. And it's possible, yes, that intimacy, it helped him flourish and thrive at one point, Dak Prescott, as a quarterback. But it's also possible, just like relationships, that intimacy now is choking his development.
Right.
It's possible that now that closeness that he and Kellen Moore have is now starting to deter and get in the way of his progress. And that's why I understand why the parting of ways. And yeah, it could be mutual. I don't necessarily agree with that. It's that mutual breakups happen in relationships. They're kind of like breakup sex is very rare, but I think, Harsh, this actually was a mutual breakup. I think that both parties involved needed to separate and really emancipate themselves from one another.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Like we talk about numerous times, at some point the relationship can get stale. Maybe he's not listening. We've had the conversation about maybe he's checking out of plays. There's so many different things. And I love the fact, and this goes back to what you said, I love the fact that where people say, well, Dak was the problem, Dak was this, Dak was that. Remember when Dak was not the quarterback for the Cowboys? Don't put it on this year because there was a time where they actually played well. Mm-hmm. They had Cooper Rush taking care of the football without throwing it that often. Mm-hmm. They were using the running game. They were using play action. They were using different aspects of the game to make it easier and comparable. Go back to the year when he had to play with Andy Dalton. Go back to the year where they were using 3 and 4 different quarterbacks. We just saw what Kyle Shanahan was able to do with multiple quarterbacks, and it just ran out for them because of the injury. We don't know what would have happened if he wasn't injured, but he did get injured, and so they ended up losing the game. Mm-hmm. But go back to that time and tell me that Dak was the problem. That offense was not the same offense. They had better weapons than what they had the last couple of years. There was a big difference. And so I'm with you. Kellen Moore was creative, but he didn't create enough, right? Mm-hmm. When the game started changing for him, he wasn't there. And Dak was failing him as well. So, like you said, this is a great opportunity for the Dak haters and the Kellen Moore lovers and the Kellen Moore haters and the Dak lovers. Now we get to see what happens on the grandest of scales.
I love it. I think, and honestly, I am rooting for both.
Right.
I'm rooting that Kellen Moore take Justin Herbert's game to the next level, and I'm rooting for Dak now without Kellen Moore to play some of his best football. But it's going to be on Mike McCarthy. And I truly believe, and this was my conspiracy theory, and I'm going to tell you what, my conspiracy theory, it might be accurate just based on what's happened so far. When Kellen Moore got called into the office and they would not guarantee that he was going to return, my conspiracy theory was that Jerry Jones and they got Dan Quinn to come back. We're like, how'd they get Dan Quinn to come back? And I said, I believe Jerry Jones had a conversation with Dan Quinn and said, listen, you are my coach. You are my head coach in waiting. All right? That's what I want from you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to let Kellen Moore go. I'm going to tell Mike McCarthy the offense needs to be your offense. It's not Kellen Moore's offense. It's your offense. I want your fingerprints on it. I want you working hands-on with Dak Prescott, and I want you to run your offense.
No doubt.
And the expectation we all know is you get past the divisional round, get to the conference championship at least, and Dak Prescott takes his game to the next level. All right. And I think we all agree those things are inextricably linked. Dak Prescott doesn't go to the next level, you're not going to get past the divisional round. Both of those things are connected, in my opinion. And I think if Mike McCarthy fails to do that, Jerry Jones is setting him up, kind of setting him up for failure, matter of fact, that if he doesn't either have a top 5 to 10 offense, which Kellen Moore had, doesn't get past the divisional round to the conference championships at least, and or have Dak Prescott take his game to the next level, you'll finally have your justification to fire Mike McCarthy and move on to a Dan Quinn and or maybe a Sean Payton is what he wants to move on to. I don't really know. My point is I think that conspiracy theory just went from conspiracy theory to foreshadowing a potential conclusion, a logical one for the Cowboys.
But is the conclusion Dak or is the conclusion Mike McCarthy?
It'd be Mike McCarthy
his contract
first.
will be a little. You will get some relief from his contract next year. So if that is the case and everybody wants to move on, I know we talked about this earlier because you always talk about breaking tendency, right?
Yep.
Cowboys need to break tendency and draft a quarterback. They need to draft a quarterback in this deal because I'm a big fan of Dak. I'm gonna continue to ride with him until I can't. And he lost me for a while because I realized you can't do the things that you've done this past year, but those things are out of character. That's not how he plays the game. So I'm gonna try to give him an opportunity with this Mike McCarthy experiment. But the biggest thing is not even an experiment. It is what it is. Who is going to be the other coach to come in? Because you got to replace a lot of people on that staff. So there has to be a lot of continuity moving forward for them to be successful coming up this year.
No, you're right. I think Mike McCarthy is going to call a plays, and it will be his offense. And I'm not upset about that. Some Cowboys fans are saying, "Oh, Mike McCarthy fell off," and they're bringing up the Aaron Rodgers quotes about Mike McCarthy and all that kind of stuff. I think Mike McCarthy is a respected, and I do think he's a good offensive mind. Like period, offensive mind, whether it be play designer, play caller, coordinator, whatever. I'm with you. Though. I wanted to bring in someone who is on the cutting edge of very progressive concepts offensively to be his kind of sounding board or to kind of be a creative outlet, whatever it may be. So I think you got to look for progressive young minds. And if they're not young, I don't mean they have to be young, but at least the way they approach offense needs to be one that is about cutting edge concepts and designs. So I know some people are bringing up Cliff Kingsbury's name. Eric Bieniemy is a name that people have brought up. I don't think Eric Bieniemy is going to go anywhere unless he can call the plays. So that probably is going to be out. It'd be a stupid move to go somewhere where you're not calling the plays. And right now you are calling some plays based on what Andy Reid says. And then you're going to go somewhere where you're not calling plays where now you're not getting credit for even calling the plays with Andy Reid. That's a backward step. He's not going to come to the Cowboys for that.
So let me ask you this in that same vein. If I know we're going to transition. DeMeco Ryans takes that job in Houston. If he ends up being the head coach, does he make that call to Eric Bieniemy to come run that offense?
That's a great question.
Because that will give him that. Because he's a straight defensive-minded coach. If you bring in somebody that can run the offense that has had success in this league, and this gives Eric Bieniemy an opportunity to be, there would be nobody else calling the plays. DeMeco Ryan is not the offensive mind. Yeah. He's defense. Will this be an opportunity for him to say, here we go. Man, this is my shot?
That's a great question. Because my concern, if I'm trying to put myself in DeMeco Ryan's shoes, if I'm DeMeco Ryan's, my big concern would be, and not necessarily about calling plays and the offensive coordination and play design. I think Eric Bieniemy can handle that because he's been around Andy Reid so long. I think he can handle some of that. I'm worried about the quarterback development of our number 1 or number 2 overall pick, whatever they decide to do.
Well, you bring in a quarterback coach.
You bring in a quarterback coach, one you got to trust, and so that would be that's my biggest concern. Is not necessarily the offense. I think Eric Bieniemy would bring in really progressive offensive concepts.
Yeah, no doubt.
I'm worried about the quarterback development, and he's not known for being that.
Yeah.
So you're right. That's why your quarterback coach will be big for me. If you hire Eric Bieniemy,
so it's got to be a group, and let him say, "You're my OC. Go get your quarterback coach to help with the development of this."
Yeah.
Obviously, you're not going to be the one to do that, but make sure that you get somebody that can help develop these guys.
That'd be big for me. Yep. But I'm with you. Eric Bieniemy that'd be a hell of a move. That'd be big time. Yep. And it'd be a roll the dice because for some reason, they haven't given Eric Bieniemy a chance at being a head coach because they don't believe that he's calling the plays, even though Andy Reid has said several times that Eric Bieniemy is calling plays with the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm with you. I think it'd be worth it for the Texans to do it. I think
it would be worth it for Eric Bieniemy because you get to shape this young, whoever you get at quarterback. And you will get to help build something in Houston because the defensive side of the ball, DeMeco Ryans, if he gets this job, he knows. He sees it. There's a lot of talent on that defensive squad for the Houston Texans.
Yep. So, and you got – I know people don't like the offense for the Texans, and I will agree it is a offense that's lackluster to say the least. But they got really good tackles.
Yeah,
they got Titus Howard and Laramie Tunsil at the tackle position.
Yep.
So they actually do have – two of the best bookend tackles in all of football. That's a great place to start building, kind of a fortress
nice running back.
Around. Yeah, nice young running back. Good point, Dameon Pierce.
Yep.
So they do have some
contract.
pieces on offense, to build around.
Yeah.
I like the Eric Bieniemy suggestion by you. I'll also say for DeMeco Ryans coming in, and right now all the reports are that DeMeco Ryans is the front runner and he's their top finalist for the Houston Texans head coaching vacancy. I'll throw out there as well, I would like to see who his associate head coach is going to be because he's never been a head coach before.
Hey, bring in David Culley and Lovie Smith.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. You still on that payroll? Come on back over here and help your boy.
But you know what I'm saying? For him who's never been head coach before, I think it's going to be big bringing on – because if you're bringing on Eric Bieniemy, also someone who's never been a head coach.
Right.
So I'd like him to.
Yeah, he needs somebody to. Yeah.
Well, I'd like him to be very deliberate about who his assistant head coach is going to be.
I like that.
And bring in somebody with a lot of experience at being a head coach. And I think that would be the only thing that'll hold him back, just because he's never done it.
Right.
And I think he may build his staff with a lot of guys who haven't been head coaches because he's going with younger guys who've probably been on Shano's staff.
True.
Or on Robert Saleh's staff now. Or Mike McDaniel's staff.
Or
I think he's going to build a hell of a staff.
Yep.
I think he's going to build a hell of a staff because he's so connected now.
Yeah.
That Shano tree is a good tree to pluck from.
It is.
It's a really fruitful tree to pluck from. So, yeah, I'm excited about DeMeco Ryans coming on. I mean, and he played for the Texans. You have lost so much credibility with the public. The public hates the Houston Texans.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about the Texans fans. They really hate their own franchise.
Because they stopped coming to the games.
They stopped coming to the games.
Yeah.
And you lost a lot of credibility with the Jack Easterby hiring, and you lost a lot with Deshaun Watson. That's not all your fault, by the way, but it was just a terrible situation overall, and you've been losing games, and you fired back-to-back coaches, one-and-done coaches. DeMeco Ryans is known for being one of the best defensive players in the history of the franchise. You bring him back. He brings guys like Andre Johnson back and makes sure guys like J.J. Watt come around. Then you get your credibility with all the fans. And I'm with you. You want to build the buzz? I like your Eric Bieniemy take. Bring in Eric Bieniemy. Yeah. I got no problem with that. And I'm sure there's another offensive coordinator that should be in consideration. But talk about buzz. That would give you a lot of buzz. People would come out to watch
for sure.
What that offense is going to look like with your brand new franchise quarterback, whoever it's going to be.
Exactly.
Yeah, and Eric Bieniemy, he's got to get the hell out of Kansas City.
He has to. Unless he's just really complacent with where he is.
He's not. Otherwise, he wouldn't be taking these interviews.
Right. Well, you still would take them. Because you want to know what it's like. You know, you want to be in those conversations.
He's been taking interviews for 8 years. Yeah, like 5 years now. He's in the friend zone for coaches. He's never going to get there, man.
That's why you got to leave, man.
You got to leave.
You got your ceiling is there because that's all you got. But the biggest risk will be you don't have a Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback, and you don't have Andy Reid as your mentor.
Sometimes you got to roll the dice on yourself.
You do.
And you
bet
know
on yourself.
And sometimes you're going to lose.
Yep.
But if he never bets on himself, he's going to be stuck there, and then people are going to stop calling for him sooner or later.
We talked about that.
So if he doesn't want to, get up, go up the ladder, and upward mobility is not a concern for him, yeah, fine. He should be. If he's happy where he is, he should stay right there and stop taking these interviews. But something tells me that he's already said he wants to be a head coach, that he wants to climb the ladder. You want to climb the ladder, you got to roll the dice on yourself and leave Kansas City. Leave your comfort zone.
Yep.
Get out of your comfort zone, man. What I just talked about, the obstacle is the way.
Yep.
Go find your obstacle and overcome it, and that will lead you to your path. They'll lead you to the promised land.
Path of the righteousness.
Yeah,
Let's go.
man. He's got to get the hell away from Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. And it sounds crazy to say it, but in order for him to flourish, he's got to go somewhere else.
He has to make that move.
And if he goes somewhere else and turns around their offense, it'll take him a year or two to get a head coaching job because everybody will go, "See, we told you.
Yeah.
Told you he was one of the biggest success.
On that.
Y'all some idiots. Y'all should have hired him too."
Yep.
There you go. All right, we come back. We'll talk about Texas basketball. Big game coming up versus the Baylor Bears tonight for a big Monday. We'll talk about their loss to Tennessee and what we can expect to see from Texas basketball coming up tonight versus the Baylor Bears. Right here on Ball Don't Lie on 104.9 The Horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. Let me tell you about my friends over at MyBookie. It's a brand new year and means a brand new opportunity for you to make big bucks, straight cash, homie, with my friends over at MyBookie. I love MyBookie because it gives you the most bang for your buck, and you're going to love it because of all the great bonuses you have over at MyBookie. If you're tired of the same old betting experience, upgrade to MyBookie, the premier destination for online sports betting. MyBookie takes pride in offering the most competitive odds and the widest range of sports and events to bet on. MyBookie's website makes it easy to place bets and track your progress from anywhere at any time. Plus, with their exclusive promotions and bonuses, you'll always have the opportunity to earn extra cash. MyBookie gives you the most bang for your buck with their redesigned deposit bonus. Bet on the NFL, NCAA, or play for a share of big cash prizes in the weekly blackjack tournaments. Just use the promo code HORN, HORN, on a deposit of $50 or more to receive a cash bonus instantly to your MyBookie account. Again, that's the promo code HORN, HORN, to claim a brand new deposit bonus designed for bettors looking to cash in and cash out quick. Don't settle for less. Choose MyBookie for the ultimate sports betting experience. Bet anything, bet anytime, and bet anywhere. As long as you're betting with my friends at MyBookie, you're betting with the best. Welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. It is a Smooth Soul Monday right here on 104.9 The Horn. Getting ready for Texas basketball. Big Monday tonight. Texas men's basketball taking on the Baylor Bears at the Mood, Harge. And the Longhorns cannot afford to lose 2 in a row.
No.
Not with this stretch they got coming up. And we've talked about this stretch of games coming up for the Longhorns. They started that stretch with the big game in the Big 12 SEC Challenge against Tennessee, which we'll talk about here in a second. Mm-hmm. Lost that matchup. But, man, the Herculean task of games they got ahead of them with Baylor at home, and then they go on the road to the state of Kansas. They got to play Kansas and K-State back-to-back road contests. So no let-up at all. They cannot afford to lose this matchup at home, especially after losing to Tennessee. So this is going to be a game where both teams will be really desperate. Baylor's desperate because they're really kind of trying to turn their season around. They're at a bit of a crossroads in their season with such a slow start for them. Yep. Kind of dug themselves in a hole, and now everything feels like a must-win for Baylor, especially in Big 12 play. But for Texas, coming off of the Tennessee loss, you don't want to start digging in a hole. You don't want your first you haven't had back-to-back losses yet.
No.
So you don't want that to start and then potentially have a losing streak.
Ooh.
Streak is 3. We know.
We know.
Yeah, we know that from Major League. Can't have that happen. So that's why I think you get desperation on the part of both teams. I'm expecting a hard-fought game from both sides here.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, and this is one of those rivalry games. Well, every game in the Big 12 seems to be a rivalry, but Scott Drew is one of the best coaches in college basketball and has been for quite some time. And now they are ranked number 11, and Texas is ranked 10. So you got a 10 versus 11 matchup tonight in this game. And then you look at one of the best players on their team is Keontae George. He's a freshman. He's a freshman in D1. You know what I'm saying? So he's out there playing as well. He's number 1. And then you got Flagler and L.J. Cryer, who's been around for a while.
He has.
And these guys show up every single week. And they know what they're up against. You're looking for some more maturity on this Baylor basketball team. But this is also a mature game for the Texas Longhorns. Coming off that loss against Tennessee, where it was a very physical matchup, Texas wasn't really in it from the very beginning. So you want some of these guys to come back and maybe get a little bit of that home court advantage. Obviously, the Moody, I'm hoping it's still going to be packed, even though the weather's kind of bad. But I'm hoping everybody can get out there and support them. But this is a true challenge for them. And you need to understand who you are. And being in the Big 12, you get back home. That was a non-conference game. Tennessee now is ranked number 2. Mm-hmm. So you look at that game and you're like, wow, we took that one on the chin. But what adjustments can we make within that 48 hours or maybe even 36 hours?
Yeah. But what I've loved about Coach Terry and what he's done so far, they haven't had back-to-back losses because he does a great job of correcting whatever issue was that plagued them, and it doesn't become something that is systemic, that ends up being an issue for this team throughout the season. But against Tennessee, it really was. I mean, it was just a slow start for Texas. And they really couldn't. And you said it, Harge, earlier. Marcus Carr got in foul trouble early on. That threw you off. That totally threw off the rhythm of the offense. They really could never really find their form offensively. Other guys like Timmy Allen, who always seems to be able to step up in the right moment and choose the right role to play for this offense. He was off too, and Serge Ibaka-Rice had to pick up the slack. He ended up having 21 points. Hell, he may be. I don't know. Do they have a 6th Man of the Year award in college basketball?
I think they do.
They do. Man, he might be in a discussion for it. He's been fantastic coming off the bench for Texas after that 21-point performance. But yeah, a better start. If there's one thing I think they came back to haunt Texas in that Tennessee game, like I said, it hasn't been. It was a scoring droughts in. Well, what game was that? The scoring droughts came back.
It was just the Texas Tech game. They went on one. They had a little drought there in the game after that. Yeah.
Okay. I want to say maybe the Iowa State game. Maybe is that it?
That sounds about right. Yeah. Where they went 18 minutes.
I
mean, it's like, come on.
You had those 2 separate droughts, but either way, that was an issue. But it hasn't necessarily come back to haunt them in multiple games or back-to-back games, maybe I should say. They had a defensive lapse. That was in the K-State game. That really didn't come back to haunt them. They figured that out and found their defensive identity. In this game, I don't know if you can say that, they got killed on the boards, and that's something that's hunting Texas. They're going to get beat on the boards a lot anyway. Right. You can schematically try to work around it, and maybe with your tactical approach, you can do something about being beat up on the boards. But when you face a team like Tennessee that just got a size advantage, and what's his name, Kamwa, he was just a man out there.
He was smooth.
A beast out there. He had 27 points and 8 rebounds. Those guys are going to have a significant advantage against Texas because Texas doesn't have a true big, and then they beat Texas up on the boards and also beat Texas up in the paint. They had a 38-23 advantage on the boards, 40-28 advantage with points in the paint, and Baylor can also hurt you in a similar way because they got some size inside.
No doubt. Yeah. And that's the worry for most Texas fans, just like what you were talking about. What can you do to offset the bigs on the inside? You got to stretch them out. You got to make them come out and guard and kind of take away that flow of where they feel comfortable inside. Maybe that's the time that he goes in there and he goes with that small lineup that he's done from time to time as well to try to get him out of that. But the thing about Baylor is they have athletic guards and bigs. So that's going to be the tough angle to go because you may if I'm Baylor, you may give up a little bit on the offensive side, but you're definitely, on the defensive side, but you're going to get it back on the offensive side because you're the big guy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So Texas can't match that on the inside right away.
Yeah, Texas, they like that small ball lineup.
Yeah,
and I figure they know they can't match up with a team with a ton of size inside, so they figure let's exacerbate our one advantage. We got great skill guys. We got great athleticism. And the guys that we do think are our bigs, or we classify as our bigs, they can run, and they're really athletic too. So you try to blitz teams with athleticism and with speed, and it does work sometimes, but it's all about when you utilize it as a coach and when you deploy it. And Rodney Terry's got to do that at the right time in this game. So his feel of the game will be big in this matchup versus Baylor. And also they need Marcus Carr. He can't have foul trouble early on, and he's a guy that has to give you more than 11 points. Sounds unfair. Because the rest of the starters, I want to say every other starter had less than 10 points, didn't even score in double digits.
Right.
And yet I'm criticizing Marcus Carr, who did. But, heavy is the head, right? That wears the crown.
Exactly.
You're the man, Marcus Carr. You got to get more than 11 from him. And Timmy Allen, too, he's got to give you, give you double digits. Right. Or he's got to give you more contribution. So I think I rarely have haven't seen yet 2 disappointing performances from Texas. That was a disappointing performance for Tennessee, even though they outscored them in the second half, 43-42. 12-point halftime deficit led to an 82-71 win for Tennessee. So biggest thing in this matchup is trying to match the physicality that Baylor's going to bring. They're athletic too, but Texas, that advantage inside is usually about the physicality, and I want to see Texas be able to match that with Baylor.
Yeah, it's going to be something to be looked at because for me personally, is this the game where Tyrese Hunter starts to play a little bit better?
That'd be amazing.
Is this the game where he finds his stroke, being back at home, getting that energy? He was taking some good open looks on Saturday against Tennessee. They just weren't falling. And you got to keep shooting to get yourself out of it. And he's not the guy that we were looking for to be this big scorer anyway.
No.
But what do we want to see him do? Hustle plays. We want to make sure that he's involved and engaged the entire time. Don't lose your fight that you have just because things aren't going your way. Do some other things. Diving on the floor, hustling, steals, boxing out, just those little things that make you feel like you're a part of everything. So I'm thinking that this game might be one that Tyrese Hunter can get himself going.
Yeah, no, that'd be big, man. We always said that by the tournament time, and I know the Big 12 feels like it's tournament time because game in and game out, you're being pushed to the limit. But by tournament time, you want those 3 guards playing at a high level.
You need them playing at a higher level.
And by the way, Sir Jabari Rice and Marcus Carr been playing at a really high level all season long.
Right. I saw when Jabari Rice started hitting them first couple threes, I was like, uh-oh. He's about to really start cooking on these fools. And he did. He had a great game.
Yeah, he was 8 of 16, man. He's been unbelievable. He seems to be getting better and better each game, and he just knows how to play his role. And he's been great in clutch time too. Marcus Carr, he'll bounce back. He's a rubber band, man. I got no worries about that. Like I said, when Tyrese Hunter is playing at a high level and they have all 3 guards, they're going to be a really tough team to beat. Yeah. All right. Hopefully they're tough to beat tonight versus Baylor. 7:30 pregame, Craig Way, Eddie Oren on the call, and you'll have the actual the tip-off happening at 8 p.m. right here on 104.9 The Horn is where you want to listen to that game. All right, we come back. We'll wrap it up, put it in the oven right here on Ball Don't Lie on 104.9 The Horn. All right, welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. Time to wrap it up and put it in the oven. Before we do, we'll let you know what's on tap. If you missed any part of any of the shows, please go to hornfm.com and you can catch up with them on the podcast page right there at hornfm.com. All right, Harge, I'm pretty sure for most of us, all of us, at least in this studio, the game is on tap. Watching Texas play Baylor. Big Monday, 7:30 pregame right here on 104.9 The Horn, 8 o'clock. Tip-off with my man Craig Way, the voice of the Longhorns, and Eddie Orr. So keep it right there locked in.
And I'm going to try to stay warm, Rod. I'm going to try to stay warm,
You got a big coat, man.
I did it on purpose,
That's
baby.
a big coat, bro.
Hey, man, stay warm,
That
dog.
is a big coat. How often do you have to pull out this coat in Texas?
Hey, people make fun of me because I'll wear it when it just gets a little bit cold.
Well, you can't wear that coat unless it's like below 40.
Yeah.
That thing is huge.
40's right on the borderline for it. 40's right on the borderline.
Bro, y'all got to see this coat. This coat is huge.
Yeah, man.
Bro, you look like George Costanza when he had the big coat, on Seinfeld. You look like that.
I'm going to try to stay warm, bro.
Man,
I'm going to try to stay warm.
That thing is really. Where'd you get that from? What city? You buy that in Texas?
I did buy it in Texas.
You bought that in Texas?
I did buy it in Texas.
I didn't even sold coats like that in Texas.
Oh, yeah.
Being like Detroit
I
to buy
bought my
that
son
thing.
one, too. My older son, Michael, he's got one just like it as well.
That thing is huge.
I let my boy Doug, he went to the Super Bowl when because they're close with Nick Foles. He said, does anybody have a big jacket? I said, I got the perfect jacket for you.
Dude, you do.
I gave him this jacket. He said, I've never been so warm. Because that Super Bowl was in Minnesota.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
They've tried to not promise Super Bowls to cold weather places like that, man, because the fans are miserable. I used to have jackets like that when I lived in like Detroit.
For sure.
And Colorado and New Jersey. I don't have jackets like that anymore.
Hey, man.
That thing is huge.
Let me know if you want to borrow
Hey,
it, bro.
man. Hey, you
my
look
Costanza
warm.
jacket.
Yeah, you're going to be sweating here pretty soon.
That's so funny. I saw a picture of Costanza with that jacket on. They were talking about when you're getting ready to watch Kansas City and Cincinnati play, this is how you got to dress.
I think it was like Gore-Tex or something.
It was
like,
Gore-Tex.
it was like Gore-Tex or something. Man, that's what's up.
I used to tell people this was my triple fat goose. You
Bro,
know what I'm saying?
that thing is huge.
Yeah,
like, where'd you have it during the show?
I had it on the chair.
Okay.
Yeah.
Damn, so you need like a coat closet for that thing, man. That thing is huge. All right. So for Harge's jacket and myself and Harge, I guess we're ready to say bye. Also,
right.
I'm going to watch the game tonight. But also, have you watched the Netflix movie You People yet?
No, I can't wait.
With
Have
Eddie
you seen
Murphy?
It?
No, I'm going to watch. I'll probably watch it tonight after the game.
I'm actually probably watch it in the morning because
I'll probably watch it after the game.
everything's going to be closed.
Hey, they ain't gave us off yet.
Man, what is up with that?
I don't know.
Making national radio, baby, because I'll sleep in the house.
Right.
I'll be out there all day.
We are not guaranteed we're going to be here tomorrow. But we should. But if it's not safe, then we'll have to be here on Wednesday or the day after that. But remember, the revolution will not be televised. We'll be talking about it right here on Ball Don't Lie. We love you guys. We mean that. Take care of yourselves. But more importantly, take care of each other. Be safe on those roads out there, people. We love you. Peace.